Just say, what's the opponent threatening?
What's the opponent?
What's the threat?
What's the threat? Right.
What's... Yes? All right, so
Welcome
we are
back to the round number 5
of the first rapid portion of the...
our triathlon
Yes.
here in Biel Chess Festival 2019.
Yes, and now after 4 rounds we have 4 leaders and 3 more rounds today left to go in the closed portion of the rapid portion of this triathlon, the GMT tournament. And this is quite an important round because if only one of the 4 leaders will win, he will be the favorite to win the rapid part.
With still two rounds to go.
3, I believe. I mean, this round and 2 more. Yeah.
Here and then 2 more rounds to go.
And actually, we would be happy to interact with the chat, even though we have no time to look at the moves. But if anyone has a suggestion for maybe a blunder by the players or any question that is relevant to the position, we will be glad to try to answer. And maybe you'll learn from our wrong answers. So let's see what happens now. We have the pairings for round 5. And we have on board 1, Bogner versus Vidit. On board number 2, we have Georgiadis versus Abdusatorov. Board number 3, Leko Magsudlu. And board number 4, we have Sam Shankland versus Jorge Corey. And we have, I believe, 2 leaders playing against each other on board 3. So this is exciting.
Right.
I believe this will be the board that we will follow throughout, mostly, yeah. Hoping they won't play
Quick
too
draw.
theoretical and let's say dry chess, which I believe they won't because so far both of these players managed to achieve interesting positions. So what other boards are played by the leaders of the event so far? Shankland against Corey. Yeah, they are both leading as well, right?
Right.
So we have the 4 leaders playing against each other. So yeah, that's quite impressive. Shankland against Corey and Leko against Maksudlu. And it's quite interesting because we can follow both of these boards and we'll take the more interesting position of the 2 as our main one to check. And in the meantime, let us start by maybe predicting this round's results. So let's pull back the pairings and see what happens. Board 1, Dina, what do you think?
Well, it's kind of difficult to predict anything when watching rapid tournaments, you know. But
Yeah.
of course, it's we have a clear elo difference, which makes Vidit being
The favorite?
favorite, yes, in this match.
So you predict a black win. I predict a draw.
Okay.
So board number 2.
Nico against Nojerbek, well, same here, you know, they do not have such a kind of
Yeah?
huge difference in their rating, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I should say Nojerbek wins.
Wow. I vote for Nico.
Of course
Okay.
you do, he's your friend, I believe.
Yeah. So I'm writing it down. What's board number 3?
Well,
Leko against Maksudlu.
I guess Maksudlu wins.
Okay, I vote for a draw. So, okay, then board number 4. 4-3 black wins so far by you. Look at her. So board number 4.
Jorge wins.
Oh, so I see a trend here.
Yes,
You've been working on your black openings recently.
exactly. Which is true, by the way. My black openings are way more
Developed?
developed and learned by heart than my white openings.
Okay, if anyone plays against Dina, check this stream out. She provides a lot of...
Yeah, I actually do prefer black, so
All right. So I'll play for a win if I ever play black against you. So with Shankland on board 4, you vote for Corey, and I vote for Sam because of the first move. So let's see. This is interesting. I think together we cover most of the results of chess available. If we had a third commentator, maybe we could cover everything. So
That might happen, like
yeah,
in a day or two.
exactly. So these are our predictions, and we will mention them later on when we get to the
Yeah, but
the
okay,
round.
if we want to be serious, that's there's not such a big point predicting rapid or blitz.
Yeah.
So the actual game will start maybe during the classical event.
Yeah, I like predicting in any time control because like when you're right, then it's fun, and when you're wrong, then
It's also fun.
at least you had fun following, and maybe
Right.
you'll remember the game better. So like whenever I have to, to guess, let's say predict something when it comes to my own activities, I'm kind of voting against my success. So either way, I win. If I'm
Okay.
predicting that I will not succeed, both cases I succeed.
Very nice strategy, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah. That's very deep. So, but I never bet on real materialistic things. Only stuff like I don't know, chess moves.
Which is very wise of you.
Yes. So back to I guess our wait for the round number 5. So yeah, we have. So as I mentioned on the first 2 boards, it's not necessarily relevant for the leaders right now, but it can be relevant later on when the classical games take part, and maybe, for example, a win by Vidit now can eventually decide the whole tournament if he gets a good result in the
Yes.
classical and so on. So every game here counts for all of these players, and I'm sure even those who are not necessarily the favorites to win would really like to finish on 5th or 6th place rather than the last and gain
Everything
rating.
is better than the last place, you know.
Yes, yes, and even the last place is not such a bad place to be in such a strong tournament.
That's
And,
true, but players
long
need
as-
to be as much competitive as they can. So
Yeah, as long as someone can give their best chess and
yes,
and just learn something. So, for example, if this will be a very high-level tournament and the last place will have 3.5 points out, no, let's say 3 points out of 7, and they don't even lose rating, then they won't be so shocked.
yes, but okay, you know, every chess player has its own ambitions in the tournaments, and
Yeah.
sometimes, well, objectively, if you do not lose any rating point,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how points you get in the tournaments, it still must be like fine. But okay, some of them want to win this tournament, and nothing else apart from this is
Yes.
matters them. So.
So let's see if we can remember our predictions. By the way, the viewers in the chat can mention their predictions as well, from board 1 to board 4. Maybe we will have a look at some point if once we find the chat. And
Once we find out how it works.
yes, YouTube and technology wasn't easy. So
When commenting a rapid chess tournament.
yeah, we'll try in the Blitz as well. Let's see how this goes. So I remember your predictions. Do you remember mine?
Not
So
really.
I voted for 3 wins and a draw for white, and a draw for board number 3 between Leko and Maksudlu. And you predicted 4 black wins, which I think
right
is
now I
very
remember.
likely in any tournament. Yeah, 4 black wins out of 4. Do you recall a single case where it actually happened? I think
Let
maybe.
me think.
Maybe it happened. If anyone saw such a thing, then and it actually they can provide with the detail, then we will definitely provide you a shout out once we find the chat. So yeah, I like my predictions here. Go Nico, and and I can say
Only
that
Nico?
everyone,
about,
yeah, everyone,
Sebastian?
yeah. I want everyone to play well, but it's just that I vote like in this case when I'm predicting something, I'm rooting for myself when I'm rooting
Okay.
for my preferred player of that specific round. So so far we have so many decisive games. So let's assume that we are both wrong with the predictions. How many decisive games do you think we will have?
I think at least 3 decisive games.
At least, okay.
Yes.
So I think at least 2, which covers more options. So yeah, so far we still don't have the moves. I think by now we could have covered the game of board 4 in the previous
Yes, that would
round.
be actually interesting for our audience.
Yeah, but
Better than listen to our
yeah,
jokes.
predictions. Yeah, but okay. For now, I can mention that maybe what openings we think that will take place in this game. Bogner against Vidit. I believe he will start with d4.
Okay,
Vidit,
knight f6.
it's funny if they're listening to us and they change accordingly. Like
Oh,
they will
yes.
like shift their openings based on what we say. So I'm going for the
Perhaps
Nimzo.
we should explain that the playing hall is actually over there,
Yeah,
just,
just above. And,
above our.
and they can
heads
climb
and,
down the stairs
yeah,
very
and
easily.
if the door is somehow open, you know,
Yeah.
they enter, then for
Yes.
sure they can listen.
So
least
I'm
something.
guessing that the Nimzo Indian will take place, and you have a first move that you think will take place between the two before Black wins. Maybe one e4. Maybe.
Yes, one
Ah.
e4 is a
The
good
dragon,
choice.
the dragon. Yeah.
Very good choice.
So yeah, that's the only opening that I dare to predict so far. And it's funny, like in the previous rounds we were so much behind, and in this particular round we are so much ahead, and we have moves.
Yeah, they have just started. So
Yes.
let's start by board number 1.
Yes, so let's move on to seeing the games. For some reason it's hard to see it in the transmission, so let's have a look here. Board number 1 between Sam Shankland. Let's see. No, board.
Yes.
This is board number 4, I believe. Yeah, Sam Shankland and Corey. Yeah, the two leaders of the tournament. So
Right.
and we are following board number 4 because of the position in the ranking. So they started with d4,
Okay.
knight f6,
Look,
c4.
even if it wasn't the same game, I believe, but our predictions.
We're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, e6, the Nimzo Indian, but knight f3, not knight c3. Bishop b4 check, also known as the Bogo Indian. Bishop after the player Bogoliobov, I believe. Bishop d2, queen e7, e3, which is a move that Sam really likes to play. I've seen him playing it in Biel last time he was here, in one of the classical games where he won, before he won the tournament.
Which was
And-
back in 2016, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. And most players, they develop their bishop to the long diagonal via g3 and bishop g2. But Sam really likes to put his bishop in this particular opening on the other diagonal. And after castles, bishop d3. And now black is thinking, so he might not be that well prepared to this particular position. No, we have moves. So let's see. Bishop d3, bishop takes d2, check, queen takes d2, and d6. So queen takes bishop, and now d6, preparing e5. It's a nice strategical idea now that black has exchanged the dark squared bishop. He wants to put his pawns on dark squares and free his light squared bishop.
I think we have some technical problem.
It's not a problem, it's just a challenge, yeah?
Yeah,
We
the
have,
technical challenge.
yes, we have a lot of co-commentators that are flying among
Trying
us
to
to
share our
excitement.
right.
And after d6, queen c3 was played, and then preventing the move e5 by attacking the square many times. And now in this position, the move that was played is rook e8, thus preparing e5 yet again. So this is the position in the game on board number 4 between Shankland and Corey. Let's have a look at board number 3 between Leko and Maksudlu on board number 3. So here we once again have a stonewall in which Maksudlu used to win in the previous, 2 rounds ago, I believe, on round 3.
We have seen already this opening.
Against Corey. So we haven't had the chance to commentate on that particular round, but
That's
we
true.
saw the game, and it was a very nice win by Maksudlu, so we must have prepared the stonewall. And let's have a look at the opening. So d4, f5. This is called the Dutch defense, even though it's probably an attack by black. C4, knight f6, G3. Now the main trend nowadays among the top players is G6, which is referred to as the Leningrad Dutch, but E6 is the old main line, which is the stone wall after the structure with C6 and D5. By the way, C6 is a nice little nuance to mention because here the reason black doesn't play D5 immediately is because some of the players with white really like to play knight H3 and put it on F4. And after C6, if white plays knight H3, black can later play with his pawn to D6 and E5 when the knight is on F4. And this is a very nice concept. So it's kind of asking white politely, where do you want to put your knight? And once he wasted the move, now he played D5. And in fact, knight H3 has been played, but instead of being with the knight still on B1 and flexible with the bishop, he kind of semi-forced white for this, let's call it compromise. So here, knight H3, bishop D6, queen C2 developing before castling, and now he castled, queen E7, and knight F3. And white's plan, normally speaking, is to take control of the E5 square by playing knight F4, knight to D3, and at the right moment, bishop F4.
Okay.
And that's a very positional approach by Leko, which means that the chances of white getting a sharp position where he risks losing are quite small in this particular case. And I would say that probably we can expect quite a solid game with white playing for the win, but we will see. In the meantime, let's mention the moves that were played. Knight E4, bishop F4, knight D7, rook AC1, and here with black to move, he has one main problem, which is the main problem in many openings after D4, and especially in the stone wall. Do you have a guess which piece is the problematic piece here?
I would suggest the bishop on C8.
Yes, this bishop is slightly annoyed by the fact that all the pawns don't like him, and he wants to find his way. And normally they either play B6, bishop B7, or bishop A6, and if it's not ideal, then there is a famous maneuver to go,
which is bishop D7, bishop E8, and
then
bishop H5.
all this long maneuver to maybe exchange
This is
him.
actually the same maneuver in French defense, I believe.
Exactly, in the French defense, which is the same opening, but with this pawn being on F7, the bishop is as neglected as it is here.
Yeah.
So in the game after rook AC1, B6 has been played, so black is taking care of the problem of the bishop, and I guess his plan is to play bishop B7, and sooner or later, after placing his rooks in the proper squares, he wants to push C5 if he can. So very interesting position, and while we wait for moves, let's go back to the board number 4, and we have some developments. So we looked at rook E8, white played
for Sam.
Sam Shankland versus Corey, knight BD2, E5, E4, preventing E4 by black, E takes D4, knight takes D4. It's good to generally recapture with knights in the center because their scope improves significantly, while the queen doesn't make much of a difference between the two and is only more vulnerable. So recapturing in the center usually is taken place by knights. D5, exploiting the pin along the E file, castles, and now C5 by black. This is looking like quite a sharp position so far. Dina, what do you think was white's idea after D takes E4, in case black tries to win a pawn?
Okay, so yeah, perhaps using the same pin, but in another sense right now, like putting the rook on E1.
Rook A, E1, yeah?
For instance.
Yeah. And now, probably, no matter what black plays, the next move is something like knight takes E4.
Yes.
So let's analyze it for a moment. C5.
Knight B5 or knight C2 in order to kind of put the knight on E3 in the future.
It's possible, but I think maybe white can just ignore it and play knight takes E4.
Wow.
And now,
that's nice.
yeah, now if If c takes d4, then intermediate move knight takes f6 seems to work, because after this line, black is not in time to take the queen without losing so many pieces. There will be a rook down at the end.
Yeah, that
And
makes little too much.
Yes, and after knight takes e4, rook e4 is another intermediate move attacking the queen. And once again, there's no time for taking the white queen, because let's demonstrate here. Not only that we take the rook, but we also have a back rank mate. So instead of this line, black played c5, and now we can expect white to move the knight. C takes d5. He didn't move the knight. This is probably part of his preparation. He sacrifices a piece in order to have a complete control in the center with two central pawns.
If I'm right, that is not the first time we see
Shankland sacrificing.
here I remember he sacrificed like in a queen ending, right? In the round, there was in the beginning.
Round one?
I
Or
guess, or two
yeah,
perhaps.
in the previous, in round 3, he sacrificed an exchange
Yes.
against Abdusatorov, and
With
I believe he
95
ended up
or-
making a draw in that game.
Yeah, but okay, never mind. It's just interesting that we see so many
Big
piece
material.
sacrifices, yeah, like knight or bishop against pawns,
Yeah.
centralized pawns.
So after c takes d5, c takes d4, queen takes d4, black thought for full 8 seconds and played rook d8. And queen c3 took place, running away from the pin, which prepares knight c6 and knight e5. After which black played knight bd7, going for either knight e5 or knight c5. I will get it, yes. Okay, so here white played rook fe1, preparing something like, I guess, f4 sooner or later, and maybe some push with d6 and e5 and something like that. He just wants to support the pawns. Knight e5, and now bishop e2. Once again, preparing for this f4 push. How would you evaluate the position, Dina? I don't know if I have an answer, but that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, thank you. That is not so easy to evaluate this position. I mean, I tend to prefer material, usually. And if we calculate, like using some maths knowledge, then black has like 3 pawns against 2 pawns. Am I right?
White has 2 pawns for a piece.
No. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 points
Yeah,
against
3.
2 points.
Yeah.
That's true. So by materialistic standards,
Black is definitely
black
better.
is ahead, but from the, let's call it, development point of view, an amount of pieces in the game, assuming these pawns are also pieces. So white has like 6 pieces in the center versus
Yeah,
4
and
pieces by black.
that's true.
So white is leading by time, while black is leading by material. And this is the classic collision in chess between material and spirit, I would call it. So in this situation, yeah, it became too philosophical for a moment. But bishop e2, and white has a threat, which is not too spiritual, f4, followed by bishop
Which is
f3.
more concrete
Yeah,
in this case.
bishop f4, bishop f3, and his moves are pretty easy. That's also something I like to mention about white's position, that it plays itself. Like, it's very important in chess to achieve positions where all your moves are obvious. So f4, bishop f3, rook ad1, moving the knight to one of these active squares, and e5, and sooner or later just steamrolling black if he lets us.
Okay.
And here black played bishop d7, which seems a little passive, but what to do? The bishop has no better square. Queen
At
d4.
least it develops in a way.
Yeah, queen d4, which is not only preparing to rook c8 in advance, but also preventing it because a7 is hanging. So it's kind of funny. A few moves ago, he ran away from the pin by
Right.
playing the move queen c3. And now after black has spent some time with his knight and bishop, he gets back to the d4 square, because bishop c8 will only lose time because the knight is on e5 already. There's no point to gain time for knight c6, c5. So here, queen d4, white prepares let's say the plan that I mentioned earlier. Depending on the move order, he can choose to play h3, f4, bishop f3, rook ad1, knight somewhere, and then slowly trying to push the pawns. One thing you don't want to do when you have a strong center, especially when you're a piece down, is move forward with your pieces. So for example, after h6, just a random move, you don't want to play d6 because your pawn was controlling a lot of important squares. And once they move forward, if you're not properly prepared for it, you can lose control of the center and your pawn can become weaknesses. So
yeah, I think this is we can compare it to those openings when white has a center and black is passive, like Pirk or Indian, perhaps.
Yeah, King's Indian, yeah.
And it's kind of the same situation because from the one side you kind of want to move your pawns like to the 5th and 6th rank, and from the other side you are about to lose the control of the center and of the position on whole.
True. And in this case, you don't want to move forward with your pawns, as we mentioned. And the plan is to just bring the pieces over with every move, and preferably with tempo if we can, like this move f4 when the time is right. And actually, one thing that I would consider doing as black, I'm not sure if it's good, but it's to sacrifice the pawn on a7 in order to exchange queens with queen c5 and maybe trying to achieve some activity.
Yeah.
I think this might be interesting because if queen b7, rook b8 and rook b2 is very active, and this could be nice. So Corey has decided to play a6, preparing the same line without the pawn sacrifice. So black does care about material in this case, and probably rightly so. And now, what would you have played with white? Or what would you have asked yourself?
Well, for sure, f4 is a candidate move.
Yeah, f4. And what is black going to play against it?
So for sure it will move with the knight, like
here or here? What do you think? Let's say knight g6 because it comes with tempo on f4.
right.
And now if e5,
Well, yeah, I see the problem. There's actually both pawns are under attack, and
which two pawns?
no, only one. Excuse me. So yes, e5, maybe knights. Okay.
There is a nice tactic here, I believe,
Oh right, there is
which might not work, but we can
knight
see.
d5. Are you talking about knight d5?
Yes, and now if queen takes d5,
Then bishop somewhere like c6.
I think here, because queen a5 protects the knight,
Okay. Oh
so
yeah,
we
bishop
want
d5.
to prevent the queen from getting to a5 and then attack the queen, and once it moves we want to go to d2, capture the knight and win the game. So after knight g6, e5 doesn't work, so f4 is not necessarily winning a tempo, and if it's not winning a tempo there is no justification for playing it right away, unless he did it, which he did. This usually will happen when you commentate in a brave fashion and try to guess properly. So f4 comes with tempo because after knight g6 he doesn't play e5 and fall for this trap that we happily found, but d6, preparing e5 next. The reason I didn't want to suggest this move is because once the queen moves, then if we go e5, for example, that's not a good example. Let's see. If the queen moves to e6, let's say, or f8.
No, e6.
Yeah,
e6 is
f8
not
and
that
e5,
good.
knight e8. Okay, black is passive for now, but what I meant to say is that all our pawns are on dark squares, and we no longer have a strong control of the light squares like we had earlier.
That's true.
So I would prefer this pawn, in this case, to be on d5 so we can control all of the squares
Yeah, that.
in the center. And this
We
pawn,
go back to the point that we have mentioned previously, that when you have those centralized pawns, it's better to keep them in the center in a way.
yeah. So in this case, Shankland saw something else, and he probably understood that if he lets black develop very quickly, then he will have some problems because he's a piece down, and he wants to exploit the fact that he has a lead in development for now. So that makes sense. And in this case, queen e6 is not possible probably. Or is it? Queen e6? What do you think? If f5, I have queen e5.
Okay,
So,
interesting.
so queen e6 is an interesting idea for black.
Maybe something like bishop c4. Can I do
Um,
that?
Yeah, but then maybe queen g4.
Okay.
Knight f4 being a very big threat.
Yeah, and we cannot play g3, so it's, well, we can, but it doesn't help.
Mm-hmm. And here after queen g4, I don't see a good continuation for white. So after d6, queen e6, a good move is called for. Maybe e5. Maybe e5 makes some sense because now the knight is attacked. I would offer queen d5 for black.
Okay.
What now? Maybe queen e3.
Yes, queen e3, definitely.
Then knight g4.
Forcing in a way
Exchange something.
to give a bishop, which is not that nice.
Yeah, it's not that nice.
Looking at the 8h1 diagonal.
Okay, in the game he did play queen e6 and he did play e5, but black decided not to play queen d5 as we mentioned. He played bishop c6 here. So I guess his idea is that after e takes f6 he takes on d6 followed by queen takes f6 and he will be left with an equal position from material point of view and some chances to maybe attack the f4 pawn. And in case of g3, the diagonal might be open if white wants to protect this pawn. So let's have a look. After bishop c6, not taking the knight makes less sense, right?
Right.
Than taking it. So now the question is what Sam will do. Although bishop c4 might also be an option as an intermediate move. So in this position in the game after bishop c6, white is thinking, and they have to decide whether they take the knight or they go for the initiative with a move like bishop c4, or maybe something even more sophisticated like rook d1 or something like that. Just developing the last piece and like if I had to like let's say express how I feel when I make this move, is like yeah, I just want to play chess. I'm developing. I trust my intuition. So yeah. So this is the kind of move you make in blitz and you feel like a genius, and then when you check afterwards you realize it's like losing the game.
Oh.
So that's usually what happens to me at least. So after rook a d1, for example, queen d5 and queen f2 and some complications will take place. Here's a funny line: knight takes f4, e takes f6, and knight h3 check.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you take, then queen h1 mate. Almost like what will happen in the game, according to your prediction. So h3, which is almost like what I said. Yeah, it's like a funny little waiting move. So Sam wants to play for the win. He doesn't want to allow black to equalize. And the idea behind h3 is interesting. He wants to avoid knight g4 ideas in case he moves his queen backwards. That's at least my guess. So, and maybe there is, also he wants bishop c4 without allowing queen g4.
Okay.
So that's quite a deep grandmaster-like move, you know? Like,
Grandmaster-like move.
I mean, yeah, grandmaster move in this case, but I mean, yeah. h3, I don't call it a grandmaster move because like among the Israeli chess scene, people say like that king h1 is a grandmaster move or king h8.
Here king h1 is not that a good option.
Yeah, yeah. But there is a famous or not so famous saying like among the coaches there that they say like when a grandmaster plays king h1 against you, it's time to resign, which is funny.
Really?
But,
Already?
Yeah, I don't like resigning in general, but yeah, it's if you have some chances. But h3 is making some sense because when the knight moves, he wants bishop g4. So yeah, it's a nice little idea. And I guess the critical move here, Diana, is queen to, no, just kidding. I think it's queen d5.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's good. So how would you even begin to approach this position as black? So clearly it's a mess. Would you just use your intuition or start thinking in terms of like principles. Let's hear all your secrets to help your
Well,
opponents.
usually I listen to my intuition.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
And my intuition says that if you have a rook on a8 and it is not yet developed, it's a good thing to develop it. But okay, here there is kind of a more complicated situation with
Let's trust your intuition. Check rook ac8.
No, wait, I did not calculate capture. Is that no, nothing?
Ah, but also this bishop g4 idea is annoying now.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't want to put your rook on c8 yet. But like this knight is
Well,
attacked.
bishop g4. What if I just capture with my knight?
No, I mean rook c8. If I will find some line where I take here.
Yes, and then I.
Rook d6.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see your point.
I'm really unsure what's my point, but
I still don't understand. What if, yeah, captures and queen c3? No.
this is weird. You take on d4. So queen. Let's analyze. Queen c3. No, but then
Or queen b4.
yeah. Probably I don't want to capture it straight away. I probably will play something like queen back. Don't know where. This doesn't feel right because it doesn't create a threat, and if the knight ever moves, then bishop g4 is going to be even more annoying. But it's really hard to suggest a move for white. I would probably stick to my sophisticated approach with rook ad1 as white here. So let's have a look at the move that they may have played by now. Yes, so after h3,
Listen,
Knight
by the way,
h4.
sorry for interrupting you, but I believe we did not mention at all other boards.
yeah.
Do you think it's...
I mean, we can, but I think this position is so exciting that we can stick to it, and by the time we have some, let's say, the smoke clears here, then we can have a look at the others. As we've seen, we had a lot of free time between the rounds.
Okay.
So knight h4. Now bishop f1 was played, which is also, I don't know, it seems funny to me that like they make all these moves on the king side when everything is hanging in the center and waiting to explode. So bishop f1. And yeah, now while Shankland is thinking and still very unclear, I agree with you that we should check some of the other boards. What do you say about board number 3 of the two other leaders?
So board number 3, Peter against Parham.
Yes.
Well,
So in this board,
looks kind of
relatively equal.
calm.
Yeah, relatively calm. After having looked at the, all of these
Yeah.
sharp lines, this feels almost like something we want to
Avoid.
look at later, a little bit later,
Yeah.
when.
Kind of postpone on the,
I mean, it
for
is
the
an
better moment.
it is interesting for classical chess or when we have time to speak about the subtleties, but I feel like here maybe we don't have time to properly understand the depth.
Yeah,
of
I agree
the-
with you.
Yeah. So let's look at the other two boards. So Georgiadis against Abdusattorov.
Board number 2,
That's-
Nico
yes.
against Noderbek.
Yes, we have a very interesting position with white having a much better pawn structure and black.
This is far more static.
Yeah, so here is white to move. As you can see, the arrow next to the move 98 by black. So the arrow is marked like this. Yeah. So knight wants to go to d6. And now it's up to white to decide where he wants to put his pieces. So it's not so easy because bishop g5 is a threat and knight d6 is an idea to exchange this strong knight on b5. So it really is interesting what white will do here. It probably delves into some long thing. I see by his body language that he's very close to making a move because you see his hand is like
That's true.
in air a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, he really wants. Yeah, and he made a move. Yeah. I
But,
sensed the.
let's just
yeah, he
for
played
a
f4.
moment let's try to evaluate this position.
Yeah, he played f4, I believe. If I saw the video correctly, we still. Yeah, we have the move, and now in this case.
Wait,
Yes.
what can we say about the evaluation of this position?
It's a good question. I believe that probably
At first
I like
sign,
white.
I also prefer white.
I like white because his pieces are more
Yeah.
active, and also I would say that his pawns are controlling the center a little bit better.
I agree.
And black's main idea now is to calculate knight d6 and to try to see whether after rook c5 he has some tactics like bishop takes g5 followed by knight e4, because knight e4 immediately fails to knight takes e4, protecting the rook, I believe. And now if bishop takes g5, let's say h takes g5, knight e4, that's an interesting situation to have. And maybe now a move like d6 can be interesting. So I'm sure they are calculating it, and he took on f4, opening the e file, g takes f4, and now what? Maybe knight f5? Oh wait, is the knight? Oh, sorry, I missed another move. f4, knight d6 was played, rook takes e5 as mentioned, and now e takes f4, g takes f4, and probably knight f5 looks like a decent move with double threat
Yes.
by black on the rook on c5 and the pawn on h4. I believe this might be a move that black is calculating. What do you think happens after knight f5?
Well, I see that if we try to queen f2 to kind of protect both at the same time, there must be something like bishop g5.
I don't think you can protect
Okay.
both
Yeah, I see.
like this, because now the queen has to take, if takes the knight, then the rook is hanging on c5. And in this case, probably attacking measures are called for. But how can white attack? Maybe rook takes e7 followed by d6 idea. But then knight takes d6. Seems okay.
Yes.
So after knight f5, I'm not sure what to offer white.
Okay, there have been moves.
Maybe rook c2, but then it takes on h4 and on f5. Let's have a look. Rooks.
Look.
They have they played.
Yeah, knight f5 has
Knight
been
f5
played,
and white played
and
d6. Yeah.
Yes.
This was the next move in line. After rook c2, I wanted to calculate this and captures, but now I see that after fg, black has the simple recapture with the queen, with a winning position.
True.
So d6 was played, and now c takes d6, which white may have missed because like there is a pin on the along the e file. Maybe he thought that if the rook is no longer hanging, then he can take the knight. But yes, c takes d6 looks like black has just gained a pawn, and now after rook c8, it's not so clear what white wants to play. Maybe he wants to move the queen, like you mentioned earlier,
Yes.
queen f2, and if the knight moves to take on d6, and if bishop g5, maybe e
But
takes
bishop,
f5.
yeah, and bishop takes h4.
Yes, so bishop g5, e5, bishop h4. Yeah, this doesn't look so tempting, so maybe not
No,
queen
it
f2.
doesn't.
What do you say here? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's black is
King h3.
better than it used to be before.
Maybe queen e1. Then rook c2 is available. Really uneasy for white to find a good resource after the exchange of rooks, which didn't take place yet. So here, let's have a quick look at board number 1, which we didn't see so far.
Sebastian against Vidit.
Yes, Bogner against Vidit. We just saw a move by Vidit in this position. Yeah, they have made some moves. Queen takes f4. So at first glance, it seems like black has some more material. Oh no, it's equal. 4 pawns for each. But I like black because his pieces are very close to white's king, you see? All of them
Yes.
are looking at squares near the king. And the white's queen is a little bit cut. If queen a8 check, then maybe there's rook d8 with tempo. So let's have a look at what they played. Queen a8, rook d8 with tempo. Queen takes b7. And now it's a question of what black has prepared to attack the white king. If he doesn't have much, then he will lose after a simple idea of progressing the passed pawn
Yeah, promoting the pawn.
along the c file. So what should we offer black? How do we defend?
We should try to attack somehow the white's king.
Okay, so let's see.
Easier to say than to do.
Yeah, I have an idea. Rook takes h3 followed by rook d2.
Okay.
Threatening checkmate on h2, which I believe Vidit has played.
Well,
Ah, not immediately. Wait. He made another move first. He made a better version of this. He played the amazing move bishop d1, just preventing the rooks from any access along the first rank, and threatening maybe some queen f1 ideas, or rook h3 followed by queen f1, knight c4, and now rook takes h3. And I believe black is winning, because if gh3, then bishop f3 check,
yes.
winning the queen. And
Checkmate.
if they play king g1, then after queen d4 check, the king is mated by the rook on h1 after king f1. So Sebastian is thinking after queen d4 check, or no, after rook h3.
Yeah, seems like there is nothing white can do here.
Yeah, only two available moves. One getting mated in three, or in three moves, and the other one losing the queen. And and he's losing the queen. G takes h3 has been played. Bishop f3 check. Queen takes f3, right?
Yes.
And now queen takes f3, and I don't believe there is anything white can do here to save himself. Just for example, if king g1,
Yeah, he resigned it.
he resigned. Okay, so
So let's move to another
Yeah.
board.
after queen g3 he resigned.
Yeah.
And the point, just to be clear, is that after a move like, let's say, king h1, I take, go back, and almost no matter what white does, I go rook d4 and bring the rook to the attack, and with the mate to
Checkmating,
follow
yes.
very soon. So this was a very beautiful sacrifice by Vidit, and a nice win and a nice prediction.
Yes.
and on board 2, black won as well.
You see, that starts making
Yes.
sense.
Everything makes sense now. And board number 4, our heroes has made a draw. Heroes in terms of sacrifices, yeah? So board number 2, let's have a look at what took place after this move. C takes d6. We have just seen rook takes f5, sacrificing the exchange. Then knight takes d6, attacking both pieces. Rook c6, knight f5, and queen
So this
b4.
is board number
2.
board number 2. Yes,
Yeah.
right.
But I believe there's no point for the video here, because the game has been
Yes.
finished. So queen b4, queen takes h5, bishop h5, g5, h takes g5, queen takes e4 check, queen f3, and queen takes f5. And after the queen takes c6, the last fork for the game, queen g fork. I'm glad you liked it.
I did.
And now white is losing his rook because of rook a2 check coming up, or queen d1 check. So white resigned, thus leaving us with 2 black wins. I got the right prediction
no,
on
but
board
wait.
3 with a draw.
Okay, wait. Board number 1.
And
Let's have a
board,
look.
and board number 4 is a draw.
Okay, board number 1.
Okay, so we'll look at the board number 3 and 4 soon enough. Board number 1 is the one we just saw, right? With the black queen. Just wasn't updated for some reason.
Okay, I see.
So
Yeah.
black won on board 1, black won on board 2, as we just have seen.
So
Peter
let's-
Leko with white made a draw against Paha Maksudlu. And we have everyone, like, since board 3 and 4 made draws, then the leaders still have the same amount of points, 7 points after 5 rounds. So we're looking at the standings. Dina, what do you think about the standings so far? First board was finished in a black win.
Yeah, so we have two black wins as
2 draws.
and 2 draws.
Do you think there is some kind of a trend that black wins quite a lot in recent top games?
Yes.
Because white plays for a win, yeah, and black
Yes.
is very well prepared, just like you, with their favorite openings. And I believe that in this case, we can expect a very exciting last 2 rounds. And let's get back to the analysis
So
board.
wait a second. So we still have kind of 4 leaders.
4 leaders, 7 points
Yeah.
each,
So
yeah.
basically nothing changed.
In terms of the leadership, no.
Yes.
And Yeah, Vidit won again, so
He's back to the tournament.
yeah, he won twice in a row and he's chasing the leaders.
Yes.
And I'm sure he will have a very good chances to win the overall event, especially if he continues to win in the rapid now. And let's have a quick look at the analysis board.
At the games that which we haven't mentioned before.
Yes. So first, before going to board number 3, we are at board number 4 between Shankland and Corey. Let's see how the game unfolded after the previous time we checked it. So we mentioned a deep move, like a grandmaster, h3, followed by knight h4, bishop f1, knight d5. I don't know if there is an idea behind it, except running like escaping the threat with the knight. Queen f2, queen h6, protecting the knight, g3, knight f5, king h2, very nice defensive move, and knight x d6. I think black had enough of these amazing pawn chain.
Pawns, yes.
Yes.
And decided to give back that component.
Yes. Black unchained himself, yeah?
Okay, yeah.
So he takes d6, rook takes d6, and queen takes d6, sorry, and knight c4, queen f8, which is not my first guess for a move here. I would like to move more actively, but I'm sure there is a point behind it. Knight e5,
sure.
rook ac8, your move, bishop c4, bishop e8, preparing some, I guess, king h8, f6 ideas. Rook a d1, knight f6, a3, rook d1. Suddenly the game looks very like calm, yeah?
Yeah, symmetrical.
Queen e7, queen d4, king f8, bishop b3. Both players are just improving their pieces. Queen c5 offering the exchange of queens, and white said, no, I want to exchange them on this square. And after queen takes d6, rook takes d6, king e7, rook b6, rook c7, rook b4, b5. I can't really explain much about these moves because they are just improving their position very slowly. And now the position is very calm, and rook d4, and a draw was offered by white, which black agreed to. By the way, I like to mention that even though if I were to play a game in an open tournament that's not broadcasted, I would probably take the draw or offer it as white. I think in general it could be a good idea when there are lots of spectators to continue a little bit to show the crowd how the position liquidates. But
Yeah.
but opinions vary on this topic.
Frankly
like-
speaking,
Like
for
what,
me, the last thing those top players are thinking about is how to amuse the
Entertain.
crowd.
yeah, but we all have a common goal of making chess more popular as a sport,
That's true.
and it should be like some sort of a show in a way, especially in rapid and blitz. So it doesn't take too many efforts to make 5, 6 more moves and exchange the pieces and show. So just to ease my mind, let's show the move knight d7, knight takes d7, rook d7, bishop d7, and a draw was agreed, which I assume could have taken place in this case. And white doesn't even have to exchange the bishops. He can just bring his king, and it's some sort of fortress. So he will put his pawn on h4, play king f2, king e3. Just allow me to give an example. Let's say this pawn we don't want to be hanging. So something along these lines. King c5, king e3. And black really cannot penetrate any of these squares with his king. And it's some sort of a mutual fortress where they cannot break through with either color. So a draw was agreed. Now we all understand, even though probably
We did it before.
many have understood before. Board number 3, the only one that we've truly neglected.
Yes.
So let's have a look at the game from where we last saw it, which was the position after b6, I believe. So move number 11, b6 by black. Here,
I see that you were right for looking for that right moment, putting the bishop on f4.
yeah, and he managed to do it, which is very easy because like the plan for white is pretty straightforward. Like you put your pieces like this, and almost no matter what black does, you cannot go wrong. And the queen is almost always placed on c2 in these structures. So after the move b6, white decided to exchange the bishops, because normally, on principle, when you want to control the dark squares, when the opponent have weaknesses along the dark squares because of the pawns being placed on the light squares, it's a good idea to exchange the dark squared bishop of the
Yeah,
opponent.
it's kind of typical idea.
Yes, because this is the main piece that covers these squares and can afford, to exchange itself when necessary. So the queen obviously also covers the dark squares, but if it's attacked, it has to move. It can't really just stay there. So now, after the exchange of bishops and knight takes, c takes d5, c takes d5, which is, by the way, a small achievement for white in this structure, because ideally, black wants to recapture with the e-pawn. So had he been on time, for example, if, let's say, knight f4 and bishop b7, now after c d5, black most probably would have captured with the e-pawn with some chances to play for a win. But this was the exact moment to take on d5 with the pawn, because now c6 is hanging, and after c d5, it's time to bring the knight. Fischer said a long time ago that chess is timing. So good timing by Petr Leko to take on d5, bishop b7, and now a very interesting move, queen a4, aiming against rook c8 idea, so that a7 will be hanging. And rook c8 was played nevertheless, disproving my point, because if you take, then you lose your queen. So I don't know what was the point of queen a4, honestly.
No, but you can always just
Queen
try
A3,
to
oh, he showed me.
activate your queen, basically.
Yeah, so
Develop your
maybe
piece, so.
he wants to put it on a3. Good for me for not understanding it and learning something new. So queen a3 is sometimes a good square for the queen in this structure. It cannot take on a7 yet, but the pin plus the potential attack on a7 forces black's hand a little bit. Now king
Look
f7.
at in any case, white queen has nothing to do. Nothing to do on c2. So
yes, and now knight e3, king f8, because knight e5 is a slight threat, and I believe white is slightly better here, but I don't like what he played so much. He played knight fe5 and exchanged the knight. It might be a good move, but maybe an interesting idea could have been something like, let's say e3. There's no point for this move in particular, but it just stabilizes.
There is, I mean, there's extra protection for the d4 pawn.
Yeah, it's a solid move.
Also, maybe I believe bishop on g2 has nothing to do. So, in a way, one day putting it on f1.
I believe it's a good consolidating move, but maybe the reason he didn't play it is because after knight e4, maybe like here, the threat to exchange queens is good for black and bring the king to the center. And the idea behind knight e5 was not to exchange the pieces, but now that after black plays knight e4, white may have some, I don't know, cool idea with bishop takes e4 and remaining with the knight against the bishop and maybe playing for a win later on using this fact. So, for example, let's say queen takes e7, and now...
I think we are approaching round number 6, aren't we?
Yeah, we might. King takes e7, and now something along the lines of... Yeah, I guess bishop takes e4 could be an idea, but maybe it's not so good. So, anyway, knight e4 is not necessarily the best move, even though it was a threat back here on move number 17. Rook takes e1, rook takes e1, and rook c8 has been played. After the exchange, knight takes c8, offering the exchange of queens. Queen c3, knight back to d6, e3, bishop a6, bishop f1, takes, queen b7. And after both players improving the placement of their kings, a5, g4, g6, everything is solid. Black doesn't want to allow g takes f5 and e takes f5 because d5 will become a weakness. And now after b3, queen c8 and the exchange of queens, not much is left to play for. And here, even though I'm not an authority, even I approve the agreement to a draw, especially after the threefold repetition that can take place after knight e5, king e7. So overall, this was an interesting game. Even though some players that are low rated might judge it as dry or like let's say with less
was not
action,
that
it was
dry.
a very positional game. I'm sure White has its chances. I liked his position the most, more or less, around this situation with a knight on f4. I guess king f7 followed by king f8 was an interesting idea, because king f8 immediately didn't threaten knight e4 because e6 is hanging. So king f7, king f8, I really like by black, and now in this case maybe it's close to equality, but I guess if we analyze it deep enough, we could find some resources for white. So now I think we more or less finished all the games, yeah?
Yeah, I also think so.
Yeah. We saw this lovely bishop endgame that we invented. Then the nice queen g fork,
The last fork, yeah.
yes. And then we have this lovely mating attack by
Sacrifice, yeah.
Vidit on board 1. So let us look at the, how do you call it, the standings.
Yes, I think it's called standings.
Yes, of the tournament. We mentioned them before, but before. So the top 4 players have 7 points, and now in the next round, on the next round, I think they will.
How much time do we have before the round number 6 starts?
I don't know. We just wait for the moves to take place,
Yeah,
and
I
until then.
suggest what if we make a kind of very short break?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like?
Yeah, we could. We will be back shortly.
Very shortly.
Yeah, once the round number 6 starts, and so far we are happy that we solved the technical problems. Apologies again, and we'll see you soon again, right after
In
the
very,
break.
very few moments.
Yeah, with an exciting round number 6 with 4 leaders. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everyone. And we are approaching round number 6 of the rapid portion of the closed GMT of the Biel Chess Festival, the 52nd Biel Chess Festival. Once again, this is GM Tal Baron together with woman Grandmaster Dina Belinkaya.
Hello back.
And soon enough we will have some moves from round number 6. So let's quickly refresh the standings before we get back to the commentary and trying to follow this very fast pace of 15 plus 5, which is almost like blitz. So, Dina, who are the leaders?
So as far as we can see, nothing has changed according to the previous round, which leads us to 4 equal leaders: Jorge Corey, Peter Leko, Parham Maxodlo, and Sam Shankland.
Yes, with 7 points out of a maximum amount of 10.
Yes,
And,
out of 10.
Yes, and by normal chess it will be 3.5 out of 5, like a regular classical chess scoring system. And number 5 coming from with 2 wins in a row, coming for them, and hope to catch them very soon, is Vidit. Probably this round will also play for a win, and he's paired against Abdusatorov with black, and we have moves. So let's look at board number 1 between Shankland and Bogner. And now we already have the Slav defense in front of us. So d4, d5, c4, c6, and now developing the knight, and black is thinking about what to play. Usually they play knight f6. I don't think I've seen many other moves here, except Rapport having played e6 against me, one of the top players in the world. But knight f6 can be anticipated. And now we have knight c3, a6 like before, but with a different move order, I guess. e3, bishop f5, and now the other main line, instead of bishop e2 that we saw in the previous round, we have the move knight e5. I believe bishop e2 in the previous round was played by Corey against, might have been Bogner as well. Yeah, so Bogner has playing black for 2 rounds in a row.
Yes.
So bishop e2 was played and Corey has won, but Shankland has played knight e5, which is something I would like to refer to as the principled main line, because now white wants to play a move like g4, and if bishop g6, h4 afterwards with some initiative. And the only way to deal with this with the threats is by tactical means, as we can see, with the move knight bd7, with the point that after g4, I think maybe bishop e6 or something like this, or maybe knight takes e5 even. So yeah, queen b3, another tactical move attacking more pieces, queen c7 defending and increasing the pressure on the e5 pawn, or e5 square, and c takes d5. And now again, only tactical measures can help black according to theory. Knight takes e5, d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, c takes d5, bishop d2. Up until here we're following mainline theory, and now black takes the pawn on e5, and instead of the move queen takes b7, which probably most of us will have played, the very active move rook c1, I believe, is still the main move that was played the most. Yeah, rook c1 in this position. And now white is preparing queen takes b7 because he prevented the move rook c8. So black kept playing very quickly with bishop d7 backwards, which I'm sure is a preparation, yeah, by some computer line. Queen b6, which is a move that we wouldn't have thought of ourselves, I believe. Both players are very well prepared. Queen d6, now queen takes b7, very deep. Rook b8, queen a7, and I'm very curious to see what Sam has prepared here, but by the time he does show us, why don't we move to board number
2. Board number 2, Jorge against Peter.
Yes, and Corey with white has played d4, knight f6, and now a move that he likes to play sometimes, knight f3 followed by e3 against the Nimzo Indian. It's like some form of an anti-Nimzo Indian. He doesn't want to play c4 yet. So in case of bishop b4 check, he has c3, and black will lose some time. So b6 was played, bishop d3, bishop b7, castles, and now c5. So black keeps the diagonal open for now, and he just wants to finish his development. c4, and now, and bishop e7. So very interesting opening so far, and according to what I've seen before, usually white will develop his pieces like so. Black will play castles d5 and knight bd7, and we will have a fascinating symmetrical position. So would you
Very
like to play this as your white opening choice, Dina?
Hard to say, as I usually start by 1 e4, but
You're an
I
attacking
think
player.
we can say so. But here I think it's what is very nice.
Yeah, it's very safe, I would say, and the aim of Corey's play, at least according to what we saw in round 1, which we didn't broadcast, is to somehow reach a position where black has an isolated queenside pawn. So just to give an example, here if black were to play, let's say, white to move b3, castles, bishop b2, after d5, if at the right moment he captures and induces black to recapture with a pawn, so either black will have connected pawns which are potentially weak, or an isolated pawn on d5, which he achieved against Vidit with a very nice win.
Yes.
On round 1. So this is a typical structure for him, and getting back to what actually happened in the game is bishop e7 in his thinking with white. So let's move on to board number 3.
Yes, board number 3, Parham against Nika.
Yes, and we have knight f3 on move 1, d5, c4, already quite unusual opening where white, it is theoretical, but white tries to attack the center from the side. So he already tries to achieve an unbalanced structure. e6, black refuses to unbalance the position. The main move here, or let's call it the principal attacking move for the initiative, is d4, trying to grab space, but that will definitely result in very, very complicated positions. So e6 tries to keep it calm, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, and now we have some sort of hyper-Catalan with the pawn still being on d2, d takes c4, and Aronian's favorite line, I believe, at least I've seen him playing it many times, one of the top players in the world, queen a4, check, knight d7, queen takes c4, c5, castles, b6, rook d1, bishop b7, b3, bishop e7, both of them just develop the pieces, bishop b2, castles, d3, a6, knight bd2, b5, queen c2, not much to mention, black develops the queen, and now probably the first double-edged decision of the game, e4. Very interesting approach to this solid-looking position, e4. So, Dina, what do you think about this move?
I do not like e4 in a way because it weakens d4 square, but
And the d3 pawn.
yes, but from the other side it controls d5 square, and also well, putting the pawn into the center is always a good idea, like theoretically.
Yeah, and here after e4, black played rook ac8, our favorite move from the previous round, and
Yeah.
now just eyeing the queen and preventing any d4 ideas for later that white may had.
Okay, rook c1.
Rook c1, yeah, and followed by this typical queen b1, queen a1.
Exactly.
And now rook fd8. Normally speaking, if queen b1, typical plan for black is to reroute the knight from b8 to c6, and then trying to jump to b4 or d4, or in the right moment. So just to give an example, knight b8, queen a1, knight c6. So maybe later, and if he gets e5, it could be a nice structure for him to plant the knight on d4. So in the game after rook ac8, white is still thinking, and as he does, let us move to board number.
Board number 4. Norderbeck against Virit.
Yes, e4, e5. On this particular board, we don't have that many moves. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, the Ruy Lopez. Now bishop a4, knight f6, castles, knight takes e4, also known as the open Spanish, because black will lose his e5 pawn probably soon, and then we will have open files, which is not so typical for the Ruy Lopez opening.
That's true.
That is normally closed, so this is referred to as the open Spanish. d4, attempting to punish black for moving his knight twice before developing the rest of his pieces. And the only justification I know of exists with b5 and d5, sacrificing the pawn back and defending the d5 pawn with bishop e6. And now black developed his queenside mostly, and we have a very unbalanced structure where white has a pawn majority on the king side, 4 against 3, and black has a pawn majority on the queen side. And usually very interesting games and double-edged occur in this structure. So white played a sideline, queen e2, bishop e7 followed by rook d1. And here I believe the main theory is castles, and white trying to exploit the pin with c4, bit takes c4, bishop takes c4, and something along the lines of queen b8 and queen b6. That's what I recall I've seen before, but maybe it's not necessarily in this position. This is just an idea I remember having seen once. So maybe it's probably bishop c5 first, bishop e3, yeah, take, and now queen b8. That's right, bishop b3 and queen b6. So that's the main line that I have seen by black in this sideline of queen e2, rook d1. But now that I've mentioned it, let's see what happened in the game. Yeah, black is thinking. So on first side, Dina, what do you think about this opening in terms of development and initiative? Like, who would you pick?
I would pick white.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And do you like this plan with c4 and bishop takes c4?
Yes.
I'm guessing like c3 and bishop c2 and knight d2 is the typical plan, and it's also valid. But if white wanted to do it, he would have done it immediately and not having played queen e2, rook d1 first. So the justification of rook d1 is that he wants to break in the center and attack the a6 pawn and try to get rid of the knight on e4 later on. So very interesting position is taking place between Nordirbeck and Vidit. And yeah, let's get back to board number 1 between Shankland and Bogner. So already we have quite a fascinating position. Sam is doing a really good job of creating like the unbalanced positions materially and king safety wise. I like inventing words in all languages. So here we stopped last time in the position after it was queen takes b7, I believe, or queen a7, I should say. And now rook takes b2. Black is leading by a pawn. Exciting. Bishop takes a6, not anymore. f6, the only move to get the king to safety. a4, so the pawn wants to become a queen soon enough. Bishop takes e4. Dream come true. Just putting an end to white's dreams. But there was a point to this pawn sacrifice, that now after bishop c3 and rook b3 and bishop a5, something crazy will happen with a lot of precision. So I don't want to take responsibility of this explanation. Dina, what's the point of a4 and this lovely bishop c3, bishop a5?
Okay, I see the point. It's like perhaps white didn't want to get his bishop on a6 getting pinned and in the future like losing it. So it like forces black's bishop to go on a4 and prevent the pin, attacking the bishop on a6.
I think I understand the point behind it, but not really. I'm just gonna say some random things that sound like facts.
Okay.
Bishop c3 immediately, which seems like the same idea, might not work the same way because rook takes a2, and now we don't have a good square for the bishop, nor
that's what I
for the
said.
rook. Yeah, yeah.
That's what I said, basically.
The bishop c3 fails.
I said that the point was to avoid losing the bishop on a6, like avoid
I
the pin.
didn't even look at the bishop. I didn't notice the pin. I
Oh.
just meant that if you want to play bishop c3 and bishop a5 or something like that, then it's not possible with the rook on a2, and yeah.
Yeah, so that's
the
why
bishop on a4
in order to put the bishop on a4 and
Yeah.
no danger for the bishop a6 anymore.
Yeah, now the rook is no longer useful on the a file, and the a4 square is like the bishop there acts as a blocker
Yes.
for black, which is
Yes.
I think kind of artistic in a way.
Yes, that is a very nice idea actually. Like
Yeah.
it looks nice.
And also like this is very deep nuance of not playing bishop a5 immediately, but first bishop c3 and only then bishop a5. This is like, well,
There
must
are
be
so many like nuances. You
must
know,
be preparation
that's-
because bishop c3 was played quickly, and now after bishop a5 it's very difficult to evaluate the position. Who would you have picked here
Oh,
if you were forced?
still white because it's like easier to castle.
Yeah,
You know, this point is kind of my priority whenever I play chess.
yes. Also in life, by the way, I prefer to have a castle.
Yes.
So here, bishop a5, rook c8 is, I guess, one of the ideas. But like generally, besides like leading in development, I don't know what really is white's idea for attack. Maybe probably just castle and e4 and something like this, and trying to find a good square for the rook on f1 later, some open file. So what happens had he castled immediately? Why did white refrain from it?
Okay. So
Probably queen b8, no?
yes, queen
Queen
b8.
b8.
Trying
And-
to exchange the queens.
Yeah, now if you move queen c5, then e6 can come with tempo, and black will have finished his development soon. So bishop a5 is a prophylactic move against queen b8 and also queen b6. So both of these ideas by black are prevented. And now let's just explain that after queen b8 there is the lovely,
Rook c8, do you mean that?
yes.
Good.
Whew. So
Exactly.
queen takes c8, bishop takes c8, and queen up has always been fun for anybody. So bishop a5, and in the game that's almost been finished by now, and we didn't see the update. There is bishop b5, so also preventing white from castling and asking politely, let's exchange some pieces so I don't feel so threatened. And white agreed, since he wants to castle. King f7 seems forced, and now black probably wants g6, bishop g7. Bishop c7, queen d7, queen a4, pinning the rook. Queen e8, lovely defensive resource, preparing some rook b7 or something. And now bishop g3. Now, Dina, who would you have picked?
Okay, now it's like perhaps black.
Perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay, I
I
would.
feel like since black's king is more and more in kind of a safe situation, you know, that changes everything for me actually.
Yeah, and honestly, I would perhaps pick white in this case because my name is Tal, and
Yes,
I'm a big fan
should
of.
not forget
I'm a
that.
big fan of the magician from Riga, and he wouldn't have considered playing with black here even if black was winning.
Yeah, we can
So-
also mention that, okay, even though black's kind of not natural castle is approaching, it isn't yet there, so
Yeah,
yeah, which gives some extra time to white to prepare some kind of
yeah.
attacks.
Yeah, look how relaxed Sam is in the picture, like in the video. He's just chilling. He's like, I have a draw in my pocket.
Yeah, by the way, he's
I'm just going to calculate.
he's thinking right now.
Yeah,
so,
but look how calmly he's thinking. He's like, I know what to do. Like, whatever I'll pick will be fine.
Oh, look.
Yeah. Rook b7, and now he moved the queen, I believe, in the video. Yeah?
Yes.
And then e6 was played. So we will soon see the queen move. Queen d4, oh, and queen d7. So let's just explain these moves. So rook b7 is a defensive move aimed to control the 7th rank, which is very important for black. And now
True.
queen d4, refusing the exchange of queens. I don't think this requires too much explanation with the position of the black king. And now queen d7 protecting the d5 pawn. So now the main question is how should white proceed with his attempt to prove an advantage, because that's his responsibility in the opening. And well, this rook is not working.
Something tells me that this game is gonna last long.
Maybe not. We don't know. I think, like, just an example, if white were to play rook fd1, as it does have, after e6, e4, bishop e7, let's just put it on the board in the analysis. If we get this over the board, I doubt how long this game will last.
Okay, not
So
here,
it really
obviously.
depends, like, the decision is up to Sam, yeah? So after rook fd1, and e6 was played, he has to decide whether he equalizes with white
Right.
or plays for the win and risks remaining a pawn down. And it's not so easy for me to suggest a move for white. And you already picked black, so I don't know, like, the only hero here for the white side left is Sam, and he's thinking. He doesn't seem as relaxed as he was before. I guess he's trying really hard to find resources.
Well, actually, he does. Look at the way he.
Leans back.
Yes.
Yeah. In this position, he also has more than twice the time that Sebastian has.
Okay.
So he has 9 minutes versus 4 minutes approximately. So here after e6, white is like, okay, let's try to pretend that we are strong players and want to find a way to play for a win. So, but just for a moment, yeah? So,
You read my thoughts.
yeah. That's my only skill, and it doesn't help in chess because I play low-rated players. So anyway, h4 is always good. That's something I was taught before. And it's not true in this case, but after black will probably play h5 to preventing him from playing g6, he will be fine. I hope anyone, someone, at least one person understood what I just said. And g6, bishop g7, followed by rook somewhere. And black will probably be okay. So h4 is not always a good move, even though it's always something nice to consider. e4 has been played, bishop e7, e d5, queen d5, and we're approaching a very sad story.
No.
A very sad story.
I wanted it to be
You know,
longer.
it's like, I mean, chess is a story of war, not necessarily love.
Already, look,
They
have just
offered a
finished.
draw.
Yeah, they have just
They
finished.
shook hand.
I
They
was
put
wrong.
on their glasses. They take their things. They arrange the pieces
Oh,
almost.
they do not arrange the pieces.
Some of them arrange the pieces.
Actually, by this fact, you can always judge who is
Nice.
more professional than the other one, because
yeah.
Perhaps the higher rating you have, the
less pieces you arrange.
the less pieces you arrange after you finish, because
With a draw.
you expect an arbiter to do that for you.
Yeah, good job. And by the way, let's move to board number 2 before we over-analyze the situation here. But Dina is a well-known human expert, and I like. Yes, I like your approach to psychology in these cases. And yeah, whenever it comes to these kind of things, when I win, I also like, I feel like I'm very sportive, like I'm arranging my pieces, my opponent's pieces, the pieces on the next board. I'm like happy. And then when I lose, it's really difficult to bring myself. Like if the opponent doesn't hand me the pieces, I'm like, fuck, whatever. So it's YouTube, it's okay.
Yeah.
So let's continue with this position, Queen e7. I felt as if I lost already when I imagined it. So queen e7, white to play, and here between Corey and Leko, what do we say about the position?
Okay, first, what do we say about the moves?
The moves?
Yeah.
I prefer to start with a position like
Okay.
that's like I mean our most valuable resource is our intuition.
Right.
So we glance at the position, we share our thoughts, and then we explain random nonsense. But our ability to evaluate, I think, is like something that at least we can learn from when we discover what the players are doing. So, Dina, how would you evaluate this position?
Okay, I prefer white.
And
Which is not an
White-
evaluation itself, but
it is, but in this position, okay, yeah, wait, they made something very concrete, but I just wanted to state that queen e7 has been played, and now it's white to move. It's sometimes important for the evaluation, and
sometimes.
yeah,
Sometimes,
sometimes
yes,
it's
yes.
not, yeah. And here, in this position, white has a majority on the queen side, and he wants to push it and create a passed C and D pawns. But he can't really achieve it because if black gets a5, or let's say if he controls the b4 square, then it's really hard to get b4 and c5 here. So that's why he played a5 and sacrificed the pawn so that he can, now officially, he has factually achieved two passed pawns on the C and D files.
In the center, that's
In
true.
the center, yeah. And now I really like white, as you mentioned. And the problem with black structure of having these pawns on the king side, he has a majority, but the E and F pawns are much more difficult to move forward because black's king might become vulnerable, and especially the G and H pawns have trouble moving forward. So I would prefer to have this majority in general than the other one, unless white's king is unsafe, and then you want the pawns around your king. So do you feel like your king here as white is safe? Relatively safe.
Yes, I do feel so, for now.
So yeah, so that explains the evaluation, and I agree with you. And now, what do you think white...
What is also extremely important for me is that black's bishop on b7 is very passive, at least for now. So
Yeah,
when at the same time white's both bishops, they are fine.
yeah. Now rook a1 was played, which is a funny little move. The rook was developed to d1 and now back to a1 to capture on
Yeah,
a5.
but that makes sense because it's like an open file for white.
Yes, and also a very nice square for the rook, blocking this pawn on a6 and helping with the preparation of the move c5. Now the typical plan is something like rook b1, b4, c5, and so on.
Crushing your...
Crushing through.
Yeah.
And now knight e5 has been played, seeking counterplay with, I assume, some g4 jump. And if white plays h3, then knight h5 with some g3 attempts. So black is trying to achieve counterplay. He's already willing to sacrifice a pawn for it. And let's have a look at what white has played. Rook back to a1. So the point, I believe, is that after a move like, let's say, knight fg4, he wants to play something like bishop g1 and keep everything protected around the king, and maybe if f5 just to keep, moving forward with his pawns along the queen side. So that's a very complicated position.
True.
And we already have the position I predicted, surprisingly. Knight fg4, bishop g1, e3.
No, there is a problem with c4 pawn.
Yes. e3 is probably a move that
Or
was
maybe
missed.
just knights, yeah, well, maybe it's not hanging, or it is hanging, okay, so...
It's a move that has been missed by white, I believe, because otherwise he would have played a little bit faster. And white is in slight time pressure with 2 minutes against 4 minutes by black. And Corey is thinking, what can we recommend him? Not much, huh?
Not to think as much
Not
as...
to think more than 2 minutes.
Yes,
Okay.
first of all.
Okay. So, while he does handles with this complicated situation, let's continue to look at board number 3 and 4.
Board number 3, Parham
board,
against...
board 3 first,
Yes.
between Maksudlu and Georgiadis. So at first glance, it seems like a fairly balanced situation, but it's important to notice who's on the move. So rook b8 was played. You can see the yellow arrow between the
Yes.
rook on, like from d8 to b8. So it's white to move, and both of the players have weaknesses along the queen side, and it's not so easy to offer a winning strategy or plan here.
Well, usually in such situations when both players have weaknesses, it's I think it's space that that like kind of predicts who is better, because here, like for me, a5 and c5 pawns are better than b3 and d3.
Because of the space.
Yes,
yeah,
because of the
I
space.
agree. I agree. So at the same time, they are very likely to be exchanged soon. So we will see how this will unfold soon enough. But in this case, they have more or less the same amount of time, and white played queen c1. And now black is thinking. Moving on to board number 4.
Yes, board number 4, Nodirbek against Vidit.
Yes, so this is a very interesting looking endgame from the Open Spanish that we mentioned before. At first look, it seems...
Look at that. That was a very nice moment. Nodirbek has touched his rook, right? And tried to move it, and then to put it back. They just put it back.
Oh, man.
I think it was that's the final position here. I think it was something like rook c1, and then he moved it back. And now he's thinking, but he only has 2 options.
So what did he play?
Yeah, rook c1.
Was it an accident? Maybe he wanted to take on d8 and then touch the rook. It looks like a blunder. If this is the relevant position. Let's have a look.
How is that possible?
No, I don't think it's the right position.
No, it's not the right
No,
position.
no,
We
he
don't
took on
have the,
d8. And
okay, there are a lot of moves.
there are lots of moves ahead of us. Okay, so after king e6, we have bishop takes d8, rook d8, b4, knight d3, a4, knight e5, ab5, ab5, bishop c2, rook d6, f4, knight c4, g4. This is a very nice looking move, fg and bishop h7. And after king f6 and bishop back to d3, rook c6, rook e1, we have the current position. Maybe they're thinking now. So I assume that after rook c6 is the position where he touched the rook and was unsure where to put it.
Yes.
He put it on e1, knight d2 has been played by Vidit. I think black has the initiative right now because he's threatening 2 different things at the same time.
Rook c1 seems like the only move.
Yeah, plus all of the black pieces are more active than
Yeah,
white's
and
counterpart.
for the end game, it's highly important to have your king activated.
And also other pieces. And like, for example, in rook endgames, the rook activity
Yes.
is
Just
key.
the only point that kind of worries me, it's the b5 pawn. But
well,
okay,
that's
you can always put your knight on c4, and then there is a continue, like.
Yeah. In this position, the only move that prevents both threats seems to be rook c1.
Yeah, that
Which
is something that he
d4
must have played. No.
d4 is interesting. So in the game
Oh no, he didn't.
he
play
played
that.
rook e8,
Yeah,
going
he
for
decided to
activity. Rook takes
sacrifice.
c3, bishop takes b5, and I believe black should be better here. The reason is that, as I mentioned, all of the pieces by black are more active than the white's pieces, and he's a pawn up. I forgot to notice. Small fact, just little
A
tiny.
very tiny detail.
Yeah. Oh, and he has a queen up. Like
That happens.
yes. So, but he has activity.
Which
So-
is more important in a
Yeah,
way.
so bishop takes b5. When did he lose the pawn? It's on e5, I guess. He lost the
Yeah.
e5 pawn. I forgot to notice.
Forgot to notice.
I
I wanted to, but then I just forgot.
forgot to notice. Usually I remember to notice things. So bishop takes b5. it's a good advice to
To remember to notice whether you have
Yes.
enough pawns or...
So the problem in chess is not to find the right move, is to remember to find them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Looks
So
like a good strategy
yes,
for younger generations.
and older as well. So bishop takes b5, and now black is thinking. So if he had an advantage back at the time where I imagined equal material, now he's winning, because in order to win an end game or in general in chess, you need your opponent to have at least 2 weaknesses, and we can
Yes.
name even more because the king's activity is one, the rook's activity is the second one, the extra pawn is another weakness. Then there is the fact that we have a passed pawn.
Which is the fourth
Yeah,
something to mention, yeah.
we can counting, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a matter of technique, but I can definitely say that when it comes to technique, Vidit is one of the players that I don't expect to fail in such situations. The only one I expect to fail is myself due to experience and lots of knowledge of my nature. So bishop takes b5, and now in this position, what would you play with the black? Let's practice technique.
Okay. As a candidate, you should always start considering start by considering checks. So knight
Yeah.
f3.
Yes, knight f3.
Yes.
That's when it comes to calculation, but I'm going to
That
introduce...
is that it's not that calculating. It's just like those circle of your candidate's move.
Candidate moves, I think, is
Yeah.
the method that's concerned part of this topic of calculation.
Yeah. Okay.
And there, whoa,
What's
nice.
that?
So part of the, calculation is always nice and important in chess, but in the end game, so there are many players that just know what to do without calculating. Those lazy, experienced players, and I'm sure
Those
we all
lazy
heard of them.
grandmasters.
Yeah,
Is that what you mean?
Who have technique and don't
Yeah.
think too much. They play quickly and feel the position.
Okay.
So they have this positional understanding or playing strength, or there are many ways to describe what we don't have that they do. And so I just want to describe something I heard from some. So one of the key things to know is where you want to put your pieces.
Okay.
So the rook on c3, where does it belong?
It belongs on the second rank.
I agree.
Yes, like
The knight
any normal rook.
Yeah.
It belongs.
Unlike those, hipster rooks that like to stand on fifth ranks and so on. So rook c2, and the knight then obviously will belong to f3 together with the rook on c2 or to e4, and the king obviously to wherever it can, snack pawns
Yeah.
on pawns or just control,
more
help
he-
his lovely passed pawn. And now that we understood all of these aspects, we can ask ourselves, how can we make all of the moves we mentioned, but in an order that will limit the same things by the opponent. So knight f3, while it might be a good square for the knight, it will not limit the white king that much because it forces him to go to an active square. Then if you go rook c2, then for example king g3, and we don't necessarily achieve the outcome that
We can try
wish.
with knight takes h2, no? Can't we?
So in the game,
In the no,
Sorry?
okay. Yeah, in that situation, but okay, maybe it's not worth analyzing. But
yeah, he did play knight f3.
yeah, look, just in the end of the this variation, we can capture the pawn on h2 with a knight.
Yeah, so you mean rook c2?
Yeah, rook c2.
Yeah, but then the knight is not that active and the pawn is hanging and the rook is pinned to the knight, and it's not ideal. Even though we are winning a second pawn, we prefer
Yeah,
to,
something like,
to control
okay.
the pieces. So knight h4 is a nice little trick because now if king f2, then maybe rook f3 check. Rook f3 check, attacking the pawn on f4. So like this, and therefore the king has to go to g1, and the knight is better on h4 compared to d2 because now after knight g6 we are attacking f4 in such a way that he cannot defend. And now we got rid of we exchanged pawns, we got rid of our doubled pawn.
Yes.
Rook c1, knight d3 check, and snacking on another pawn. The knights are very tricky in those kind of endgames. And as we can see after this, rook e6 check, king f7, rook e2, c5, and I don't believe white has a chance with 2 pawns down where black is just pushing them forward. Yeah?
True.
So king g3, g5, what a nice little touch, limiting the king even further. Now rook c3 check, king f6, and back. I assume black will sacrifice the g pawn and just keep advancing with his other pawns. g5 looks really nice at first, but then it's not so clear how to protect it. So maybe it wasn't as good as I originally thought. But yeah, maybe this tempo has some value. We'll soon discover once Vidit will make his... oh, he made a lot of moves. So, whoa.
So let's just continue move by move, perhaps.
Yeah, c4, rook takes g5, rook d3, rook f5 check, king g7, rook f2, c3, bishop f5, rook e3, preparing d4, d3, and c2.
Do you think that was
Rook f4.
one more time? Do you think that was not a good idea to play g5? Is that right?
I don't know. Maybe it
Okay.
was a plan all along to gain time to push the pawns. Now c2, only move not to lose immediately is bishop takes c2, knight takes c2, king f2, rook e5. Now it's important to note that if white gets rid of the d5 pawn, it will be a theoretical draw.
That's true.
So black wants to keep the pawn.
Speaking about this kind of theoretical draw, I've seen more and more cases of those who are up with the material continuing those positions, you know?
Yes.
Okay, here obviously it's easier because you have a pawn, but...
Yeah, so they continued to...
Oh, they just finished.
Yeah. They continued to push, let's say, black continued to bring the pieces forward, and eventually, after h4 and rook e4, black threatens to go knight e5 followed by d4, d3, and then, let's just give an example of h5, knight e5, d4, d3, let's say rook d6, something along the lines of king d7, king e6, and say rook h4.
Yes.
White will never be able to capture the d3 pawn without losing material, and protecting the h6 pawn will keep the rook passive. So let's say, just for an example, king e3, rook takes h6, king d2. Eventually, black will bring the king, check the king, and will manage to slowly make the pawn into a queen. So in case anyone is wondering why after rook e4, oh, he didn't resign after rook e4. I want to say why he resigned. So, let's see. Rook e4. Okay, so maybe he did. No. So he continued with the exact moves, I think, that I mentioned more or less. Lost the pawn, then black brought the king and he resigned. Okay.
Yeah, so okay, that was easy.
Yes.
Just
So
turning back to my point. Do you agree with that? With the fact that it's kind of reasonable to continue playing? Like, let's just imagine
if you have a piece up, even if it's a theoretical draw, you can keep playing and try to push for the win. But
I understand if it's like a rook with bishop together with bishop. That is normal thing to do to continue. But
but
because you know, to me, even if it is still a theoretical draw, it's kind of very complicated to defend. I mean, you not maybe very complicated, but you need to remember some.
With rook and knight against rook, there is not much to remember.
Yeah, I mean with rook and bishop.
With rook and bishop,
you need to remember. But rook and knight, even though it's kind of you have nothing to remember.
Sometimes you can pull a miracle.
Yeah.
So and
like
win
you
with the
have those
knight.
practical chances, right?
I once blundered the rook and then had to defend with the knight, like not fork. It's called a skewer.
Yeah. Did you succeed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was really funny. People were watching, and they were the crowd was laughing out loud as it happened, because not because I was losing, but because it was still a draw. and then my opponent kept playing for 50 moves. So anyway, going
How
back
long
to the
did
game,
how long did your game go?
it's not. It was broadcasted, I believe. So
Okay.
I will find it one day.
I mean, not moves, but hours.
It's a rapid game,
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, it was a rapid game in Giva time. So anyway, back to the games. So we have 4 boards. We covered Vidit's win. Congrats to Vidit for winning 3rd time in a row.
Yes, by the way.
Yes, and now we have Nico Georgiadis winning with black. That's quite impressive. And we have Corey losing with white to Lekos, which means Leko is the winner, not the winner, the
Yeah,
leader.
let's have a short
the-
look at the standings after the 6th round.
I don't know if we will have time
Well,
to
I
look
think
at
we
the games.
will have the games.
Yeah, I wish to look at the games that took place. For
Okay,
a moment.
just a short look. So,
Yeah.
in order to know who is the leader right now.
Yes. So on board 1, Shankland made a draw. On
Right.
board 3, Maksudlu lost to Georgiadis. Board 2, Corey lost to Leko. So this involves
Which means that Peter is now the leader of our tournament.
yes, because there were 4 leaders. One made a draw, one lost, and the other one lost to Leko, who's another leader. So Leko is leading with 9 points. Vidit joined the group of the 2 players who lost from the leaders with 7 points, and Shankland safe at the 2nd spot with 8 out of 12 points so far. And we're approaching the last round of the rapid day with quite some clearance by now that Leko is the leader.
Yes.
And hopefully we will have a clear leader by the next round, so we will have more decisive games in the classical. I feel like it's better for their excitement. And now let's get back to the analysis board very quickly so we can have a look at the boards that we have neglected so far. And mention, I like the video thing where it moves quickly. So we can mention that we liked a game on board 4 between Nodirbek and Vidit, which was very interesting. But now it's time to cover the game between the 2 leaders, Maksudlu, Corey and Leko on board number 2. So in that game,
I think the moment we stopped at was after E3.
So E3, and we were not sure what Corey could play, and he also didn't have much time left on the clock, and he decided to play knight D4. And as we can see, I can see in the notation, he thought for 2 minutes. So he probably had around 3 minutes at the beginning of this move. F5, D6 was played, Queen E6, Bishop A4, and after Rook E8, White resigned because he has no more resources. He has to move his knight, after which Black will get rid of both of his pawns, C4 and D6, one by one. And Black will be not only be very active, but also have more material and a lot of threats that White has difficulty handling, especially with these lovely looking bishops on the long diagonals. So
can we make that kind of conclusion that White had a such a nice position and then somehow blundered and
he blundered the resource by Black
yeah.
of when he played E4 for counterplay.
Because just a couple of moves previously it looked so nice.
Yeah.
For White.
So probably after knight F4, this whole idea with bishop G1 was incorrect. Maybe he could have tried to take on E4 somehow and search for some sacrifice. So for example, after F5, maybe D6. Some idea that involves protecting. But then knight H2 looks interesting for Black. I'm not sure I like it at all.
What if trying some
H2
static moves, like just without...
With the idea to attack like this. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, what if trying some static moves, like just defending the C4 pawn, something like...
Queen H4 is, or Knight H2 are big threats right now. So I'm not sure.
What if just Rook A4?
Rook A4 in this position?
Yeah, does that make sense? No?
So It does.
I understand that that rook has
It
made
doesn't
already
make much
too many
sense to
moves,
me
but-
because c4 pawn is not as relevant as the white king, because after knight h2, I don't think I'm a big fan of what's going on.
Okay, let's
King
continue.
h2, queen h4, knight g4, followed by bishop d4 check. Yeah, I think white is lost if he's under attack like that. That's so powerful.
Okay.
And maybe there are some
And,
chances, but I cannot find it now. And in general, these two moves that he spent, rook a5 and rook a1 back, were too much of a time loss.
Too
and
slow.
Yeah, and this rook a4 now ignores the threat. And bishop g1 makes sense, but then e3 is extremely strong. Because of the pin, white cannot capture on e3 because of the e-file. So let's say, for example, actually knight h2 all the same, followed by queen h4 and knight g4 in a stronger version. So
But you know, I do not want to take that pawn at all. I want to find a way just to I
So-
don't know.
yeah, so probably this whole plan with rook a5, rook a1 was incorrect.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the opening, I'm just curious what took place. Oh yeah, we saw it. We saw this position in the opening
Yes, we did.
where they had. Oh wow, we saw something like the position after bishop e7, and then after knight c3 takes d6, d5 was played, which is a little bit too early because white lost some time with e3, and he takes d4, I guess, and now d5 blocks the bishop, but might lose some time. Even though I like this approach by white, knight g5, very creative stuff, f4, and then he managed to force this structure, but black did not spend any time on development, like on not developing. And white spent a lot of moves like knight g5 and back, f4 and fe, and I guess both of us misevaluated white's chances when we or to be more exact, black's counterplay, because he's kind of leading by development with this strong plan with e4, knight e5, knight fg4.
Yeah, that explains everything actually.
Yeah. Let's quickly move to board number 3 between Maksudlu and Georgiadis, which is a very nice game. It's as far as I have seen the final position, like I assume. So
With a queen and a bishop up.
yes, thank you for noticing, remembering to notice. So after c5, castles, b6, rook d1. I believe actually we saw some more moves. We saw this position. We even saw the position with the pawn on a5 or something. So yeah, it was very solid back then. Remember, like we saw something. So I remember there was a position like this. Yeah, this is the position we saw earlier.
All right.
And we noticed, we mentioned that the position is close to equality.
Yes.
And that you preferred black.
For the space advantage.
Yes, which was very smart to notice because I disrespected black's winning chances, misevaluated them. And rook d1, and now rook b8, queen c1. This is the position where we stopped, I believe. Now queen d8, queen d2, a4. Nice blow, preparing bishop takes d3, I believe. If b takes, or rook takes b1, followed by bishop takes d3, with a nice resource that after rook d1, black can play bishop b5. So
Wow.
this is nice.
Yes.
Bishop a5 was played, queen e8, b takes a4, rook b1, and
I
bishop
think-
takes d3, with a lot of nice tactics, which eventually resulted in black winning the game. Congrats to Nico, I think, for his first win in the tournament so far.
Yes.
And
And I think we are ready with the round number 7.
so let's have a look if
With the last round, by the way, of this
yes, round number 7 will start very
rapid
soon.
tournament.
So yeah, let's quickly pull
For the pairings, perhaps.
let's quickly pull the pairings for the 7th round.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I'll try to pull
Yeah,
the
the
game.
pairings should be a good idea to see
Yes.
who is playing who.
So in
that
the
last
until
round.
the viewers will see, let us mention. Okay.
Yeah.
That on the
So
board
now-
one, we have.
Sebastian against Noderbeck.
Yes, on board number 2, we have Vidit against Maksudlu.
Board number 3, Nico against Jorge.
And board number 4, the leader, Petroleko, against the second place in the event so far, Sam Shankland. And
So
we-
basically first against the second.
yes, which is a very symbolic
Yeah, I
pairing.
think I feel like I know already what is gonna be our favorite game in this last round of rapid portion of
the
this
GMT.
triathlon of 52nd Biel Chess Festival 2019.
Yes, and we can mention that there are other co-leaders, so to speak, Corey and Vidit, and I believe even Maksudlu, right, with 7 points.
Yeah, there are 3 players sharing the third place.
So all of them are playing. Ah, no, Vidit is playing Maksudlu, so the winner among these two will probably have the clear third or even second place in the event.
Second place, yeah.
I mean,
could
if
be.
Sam doesn't
Yeah,
win.
could be.
Yeah. So this is a very important result for the overall situation in the coming tournament. So I think board number 2 and 4 will be the most relevant for the
our
standings.
top priorities for this
Yeah,
round.
and we can quickly mention that board number 3 and 1 are still going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, they have already started, as our operator mentions to us, and we can see the first moves.
Not yet. I'm still looking for the relevant broadcast on the website. Still don't see it. All right, now I see it. So let's quickly pull the board, and we have let's start with the game between the leader and number 2, Leko versus Shankland. We have an exchange Slav, so we will soon see it. Here we go. We see they blitz the moves very quickly. And what would you say Leko's intentions are with the exchange Slav while leading the tournament?
Well, it's kind of evident in a way to predict that he's not looking for he's not looking for a fire here.
Yeah, maybe water.
Maybe water, maybe earth, but
Yes.
definitely not fire.
Probably not even air.
Yes.
So yeah, so d4, d5, c4, c6, exchange Slav, the famous variation for those who want to be famous for not losing. So knight c3, knight f6. You liked how I improvised
Yeah.
there? So knight f6. And now we can expect bishop f4 from white, which is the typical move here. And then knight c6, e3. Let's just put it on the board. Oh, they did it for us. So bishop f4, knight c6, e3, bishop f5, bishop d3. Don't I love this position as white?
You
Bishop
do.
takes, no I don't. So queen takes d3, e6 is not played yet, but I believe after knight f3, bishop d6, bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, castles, rook ac1, rook ac8. We can agree that we want to move to board number 2.
Absolutely.
By the way, is this board number 3 for us? Yeah? I mean the one we just saw, because I'm not sure. Board number 2 is between Vidit and Maksudlu. Yeah, that's the one that we saw earlier. So, yeah, my order is a little bit mixed with the analysis board, but no worries, we fixed it. So now Vidit played d4. And now Maksudlu, for the first time that I've seen someone against d4 playing in this tournament, not going for the Nimzo Indian with knight f6 and e6, but g6 with my favorite opening as black against d4, the Grunfeld defense.
Okay.
And they should call it the Grunfeld attack, in my opinion. But
Okay.
anyways, more on that later.
Just
takes
as
d5.
just as You mentioned it previously, I guess, when we saw other games of Barham, no?
The Grunfeld
With-
attack.
Yeah,
I
no,
said,
with F5, one
yeah,
F5. You
I
also
said was the
that
Dutch attack.
Yeah, Dutch attack, and you said like also should be like a defense or attack.
Yeah,
and,
I said F5, the Dutch defense, and then mentioned it should have been called an attack.
yeah.
And same applies for the
So
Grunfeld.
same case
Both
here.
both attacking openings by the same player, so which implies that he means business in this tournament.
Absolutely.
So E4, knight takes C3, b takes C3, bishop G7, queen A4 check, which is one of my favorite lines with both colors, because it's something that most players are not familiar with.
Okay.
Although I prefer to be white in this line because it's quite solid. Queen D7.
Wait,
now,
you prefer solid? Is that true?
I mean, I prefer the slightly more convenient side of the solid position. If I'm forced to be solid, yeah.
Okay.
So bishop b5 is a
Let it
trendy
be.
line. The old main line, I would say, not so old, but the previously more popular move is queen b3. But now
I think I see Peter already
finished.
finished. Yeah, his game.
Yes.
Do you think we could
Ask him.
use a chance and invite Peter Lecor if he feels like
Joining us?
he wants to join us?
Yes.
We need
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Peter Liko, the legendary player, with us. The first interview that we make in this, let's call it tournament so far. So, hi Peter.
Hi.
Hi. You seem to have had a long day.
Yeah, it was very long.
So let's try to get the mic closer. So, this one, or yeah. So, yeah, Peter, you had a long day today, and
a
all of
long
us
day
seem
in
to
the
be,
office.
yeah.
Yes, certainly. I mean, okay, I knew that the 6 and 7 game will be very tough because usually in the Rapid World Blitz Championship we play 5 rapid games,
Hmm.
and already there always I feel like after game 4 everybody feels like it should be enough, but there is one more game.
Yes.
And here there are 7, okay, with the difference that there is no 10 seconds increment,
Mhm.
5. But in fact, this sometimes puts even more pressure because if time is ticking down.
Excuse me, I think
Yeah.
we have some problem with the
Yeah.
microphone.
Maybe we'll
Um,
move to the
Maybe
standings for a
try
moment
with-
and then arrange the mic
Yes.
for a sec. So, yeah.
Excuse me, it's So are we ready now?
Once again introduce Peter Leko, the leader of the tournament and the world champion runner-up, and much more achievements that I can go on for very long, but let's get on with the interview. So Peter, how does it feel to be the leader of this 7-round event so far?
Well, I don't know if I'm a leader or not. I'm just extremely exhausted, and of course I'm very happy. I won, I think, 3 games in the middle of the tournament between like round 3 and 6. But there were 2 games where I just mixed up something in the opening and
Sorry again.
Yeah. This? Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
And maybe to, if it doesn't irritate you, to hold it for.
To hold it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's getting tougher and tougher. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Do we hear it?
Is it better now?
It's the first attempt.
I thought that I came and everything collapsed.
Sorry for that, guys.
We are too honored. Let's
Try to speak, yeah, and try to speak and make it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it was clear that these 7 rapid games will be extremely tough to play. So I had no expectations, but when in 2 games against Vidit and against Corey I mixed up my move order in the opening, then it kind of felt like, yes, I understand we are playing 7 games. Yeah, I mean usually those things should not happen. I mean in the penultimate round against Corey can you get the game? Or?
Yeah, we'll try to get it very
I mean,
quickly.
it's round 6.
Yes, I'll
Just
pull
choose
it
there,
from
round 6.
in a moment. It's round 6 from here. So here. This is my board.
Yeah, okay, if it's complicated.
No, it's get it in a moment. One of these boards.
Always this was probably a correct theoretical duel, so the computer feels that this was correct. So
Here we go.
okay. So get down to the beginning. I mean,
Okay.
get back to the beginning because
So-
there the dramatic thing started.
Okay,
I
so this is round number 6. You play black against the other, the co-leader,
Exactly.
Corey.
So okay, basically the idea was to play quite solidly with black.
Mhm.
And okay, he goes knight f3, e6, e3, and that's the moment when you feel like okay, nothing gonna really happen in the first moves. And then I go b6, bishop d3, bishop b7, castles, and c5. Terrible move, losing move.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I should play d5. That's my move, but here after c5, and then white gonna play b3 after d5, and we get this slow type of, no, not necessarily c5, bishop d6, and okay, just equal position. But I went c5, and immediately when I pushed c5, but I even had no time to realize because c4 came immediately, and my thoughts were exactly that's what hit me when I played c5, that this is bad because of c4. And I'm in a line which I'm not playing, and it's even bad. And what is even worse, that in the audience is sitting the legendary player Artur Yusupov, who used to, and he is sitting right in the middle watching the games, and this is how he is winning all his games all his life, and I know this since 20 years, and
man.
I'm on the stage and I'm getting this. So the c4, bishop e7, knight c3, c takes d4, e d4. Of course the problem is that d5 is the normal move here, d7, d5
By black.
by black, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is exactly the line which I mean looks good for black, but in fact according to theory it's dangerous and it's not so good. And the recent example was Kramnik Topalov in Skopje 2015 in the European Club Cup. And so finally I'm thinking here like 2 minutes, I don't want to enter because I don't remember anything, and anyway it was not good. So I go d6, but I know that after d6 if he plays d5 then my position is just busted.
Wow.
I mean that's it, move 9 and I can basically resign. So from this moment on I wanted to hang on and I mean last little longer than the opponents of Yusupov. And okay, I managed to hang on somehow. He didn't play e5.
Maybe knight g5 is not the most precise.
No, I think knight e5 or knight h4.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, we're not gonna, after knight h4 I have g6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we will not analyze this position. I just want to
No,
highlight
obviously.
that, I mean, what a shock it was that we are playing the game of the leaders, and suddenly on move 6 or move 5 I'm making a bad move order, and I'm just immediately much worse and have to fight to survive.
Yes.
Then luckily I survived, and then he somehow lost control completely. I got terrible counterplay, and then I managed to win. But basically that was the moment when I decided that okay, now in the last game, if it's gonna be some position that I can, but Sam played d4, d5, c4, c6. And basically whether you enter some big theoretical discussion or you have nothing. I mean, against d4, knight f6, c4, e6, you can always kind of play something, yeah? But
Like here.
no,
Ah,
okay, that's
more or less.
that's a winning
Ah,
position.
oh, yeah.
So I was very happy to survive this, and okay, we just made a quick draw. I mean, we will have plenty of games in the tournament to continue the tournament.
Yeah. May I ask some question about this game? At this point where white played a5, we sensed as if white has some good position, and with the D and C pawns becoming pass pawns, and some, let's say, good winning chances for white. And then 4 moves later, it seems like black is taking over the initiative.
Yeah.
Did you sense it?
Well, basically my point was that after a4, because a4 is a very committal move, with a clear intention, if I'm gonna play a6, a5, which is a natural positional move, then knight b5 comes, and this b5 square is in fact much more important. So I have to keep the tension with queen e7, provoking a5, and okay, simply the point is that before I was so much worried about my position. Here it looked like a position already.
Yeah.
So I don't know the objective evaluation of the position. It might still be better for white, but I mean, certainly I saw that I will have e4 and I will start to jump with my knights, and okay, here after knight e5, I think black is probably already better. I mean,
Really?
at least practically. I mean, knight d3s are coming, knight g4, c4 pawn is hanging. I mean, here knight fg4, bishop g1, e3, and
What
then,
happens in case of bishop takes e4, by the way, knight h2?
well, I have so many options, but I can just take on e3 and take on c4, and I'm just
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, basically, he even doesn't have an alternative like taking on e4, so his position is doomed. And of course, the events turn too quickly.
Yes.
The time is ticking down, and of course, he could have played better. But I mean, all of a sudden, I thought that okay, practically my position is out of sudden winning, and it's happening to me very rarely, because usually I always play very conservative, very classical, strategical, precise chess, and there you never get this. I mean, there you try to get some microscopic stuff, and then this microscopic stuff you want to squeeze for the 20, 30, 40 moves, and then maybe the advantage gets a bit bigger and bigger, things like this. And here I had this emotional roller coaster. Yeah, I mean, first I thought that's it. I mean, okay, I should just avoid getting into books with a miniature. And all of a sudden I did not even realize what happened, and I'm already winning. So
Yeah, yeah. And then bishop g1 and e3, and here we already realized as well that black is
yeah.
doing really well, and this is already probably lost for
Yeah.
white, yeah?
Yeah, I think
So this was a very good,
So okay, it was a lucky win, of course.
Yes.
Because usually if you mix something like this up, you should be punished, and you should never get a second chance
yes,
to
true.
come back to the game. Yeah. But okay, I mean, it's the 6th round. I'm exhausted, probably my
Yeah.
opponent as well, and the whole tournament. So
Yes,
it's clear that the games are not perfect. It's
Yeah.
incredibly big fights everywhere. I mean, I had a game before round 5. I thought my game against Max Todlu was very high level and very nice positional struggle, but there I lacked energy. There was a beautiful moment. I mean, I had some.
should we show it?
Yeah, let's show
Okay.
it. I had a beautiful cheapo, but Parham realized it and sidestepped it. But this is just too beautiful not to show.
Okay, so we, all right,
Yeah, so this position is after 17 knight d3.
yes,
Yeah, knight d3, and if black plays knight c4, which looks so natural, then rook takes c4 works.
wow,
That's actually like a big shocker, and white wins. So, I mean, the lines are really spectacular. Then white uses the long diagonal,
yeah,
but that was all about. And if after knight d3 he had to play king f8, then it's clear that white is pressing. But
Wow,
he
this is
managed
nice.
to, yeah, he managed to hold with very precise play.
yeah, king f7, king f8 is extremely strong, we thought, during the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's white is better, but black is very solid. However, I think there is a lot of action in the games. I don't want to distract your analysis, and I would like to keep my energy for tomorrow.
Yes,
so
yes, we
That's,
wish you
yeah.
the best of
Very
luck,
good
and
idea.
we
So
enjoyed
thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you all the best for the next rounds.
Yeah,
and
thanks a lot.
a lot of solidity and microscopic advantage. Yes, so now we're looking at, yeah, Peter Leko, everyone. Yeah, so we look at the,
To tell the truth, I'm not sure if the viewers could hear Peter.
we
I
will
think,
soon discover whether we,
Yes,
No,
a
no.
little. Okay, we'll soon
Yeah.
know, because it seemed like no sound at all.
okay, so let's just move it there. And in the meantime, let's mention that there are more things to go through in the other games, and so the last, so this was board 3, I believe, or between Leko. No, this wasn't. But okay, let's go at board 3 between Georgiadis and Corey. Yeah.
Yes.
And now we just looked at the game between Leko and Shankland, the two leaders. They made a draw, so that secures Shankland on the second place in the event in the rapid portion.
Does it?
It does, because if the third place wins, they will only join him in the second place.
You sure? Did you calculate their points? Because you know
They
when
are a point below, and he made a draw, so
yeah, but it's like 3 and
it's
1.
2 per win in the
2
rapid.
per win.
Yeah, in the rapid, it's 2 points per win.
Oh, okay, okay.
So Shankland has secured the second place for now. Peter has secured the first place for now.
yeah, so
uh,
which means that we had actually a potential winner of the rapid tournament here with us.
Not potential.
The current
Yeah.
current winner.
Yeah, I think I
Okay.
congratulated him for the first place. Yeah.
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah, in the first time when they didn't hear him. So anyway, we are back to the games, and we already have a second. No, we don't. We have another 3 games that are taking place, and we are back. So we appreciate all the insights by Peter, and we're looking at Georgiadis versus Corey. So last time we wanted to speak about the games. We didn't actually get to this game. So Nico played e4, c5, Sicilian defense, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, also known as the anti-Sveshnikov with white. So the idea is that if black wants to play the Sveshnikov with knight f6, white will prevent it either by bishop b5 or e5, normally speaking. And instead of knight f6, now black usually, whether he wants to play the Sveshnikov or not, goes for g6, which is the accelerated dragon, and white cannot play the well-known Maroczy structure against it. So I'll just explain very quickly. If white had played d4, c takes d4, knight d4, g6, then c4 gets to the Maroczy structure, which is considered to be the main line to play for a win. So now, after g6, d4, takes, we have the accelerated dragon, bishop g7, bishop e3, d6, queen d2. Black actually transposed to the regular dragon. He could have prevented it by means of knight f6, but he didn't. d6, queen d2. And now an interesting move I have not seen before. Bishop d7 immediately. I guess this is prep by black. Castles, and now knight f6. And f3, castles. And this is considered to be a good version for white, because he did not commit to bishop c4. So bishop d7, I would argue that it's not necessarily the best move. But let's not talk about theory too much. g4, queen a5, king b1 is the typical move in these long castle positions. Rook fc8, h4, threatening h5 with a winning attack later on. And now black played h5 himself to prevent it. g5, knight e8, f4, bishop g4, and now bishop e2. Takes, and we can expect white to take back with the queen, and e6 was played. So Dina, looking at this position in the game, what would you think?
Well, before thinking, I had a question, actually. Is it that kind of opening when you kind of know 25 first moves by heart?
If you play the main line, yes, but this bishop
okay,
d7 line is
okay.
is not anywhere near the main line, and it's considered to be quite bad for black, theoretically speaking. So,
is it?
Yeah.
So, okay.
At least, according to engine evaluations and
say
practice.
again, where was the novelty here, or I mean, just the rare move, or?
I believe somewhere around here. So the move h5 has not been played in practice
and was
before.
it played rather quickly, or?
After 1 minute of thought. So
Okay, so.
I suspect Corey might not have been very well prepared and just wanted to escape mainline theory and just get a game somehow.
Okay.
And after h5, even if white is better, then black is not getting mated, which is an important fact in the dragon.
Yes.
So after f4,
Very important.
the dragon attack. Bishop g4, and yeah, after the moves I mentioned, we mentioned earlier by both players, bishop e2 takes, queen takes, and e6. We need to evaluate who is better and why. So, what would you say?
Okay, white is better.
And now rook
And
c7.
why? Just because of the space advantage, like always,
Yes.
at least to me.
The space advantage, and also
And no weaknesses as far as I can see.
yes.
When at the same time black has a d6
Yes.
weakened pawn.
Yes, the pawn on d6 is a weakness, and now, so now it's White's task to attempt to prevent counterplay along the c file, with the typical ideas of an exchange sack on c3, and from this knight to be activated at some point, and at the same time to create somehow a second weakness by black, and. Or maybe just have achieved some pawn break by means of e5 and f5 at some point, in the right moment. So instead of calculating a lot of long lines, let's just look at the game. f5 was played, giving up the control of the e5 square, but preparing a very nasty f6 move.
Very nice team. Yeah.
Yes, and after which the bishop will be locked. So the typical move here for black usually is bishop e5 to prevent it from happening, and then knight g7 or something, but there is no time because e6 is hanging.
True.
So now it's a question of what black will do to counter the threat of f takes e6. And he played knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, takes, and queen e5. So he's seizing his control over the e5 square, but at the same time he
Gave away that important bishop who...
gave up his important bishop.
Yeah.
And his king is not that safe. Probably his hope is to put a knight there, and then if f6 at some point, then to go back with the knight and try to hold everything. But still seems to me like white should be better. And white is thinking he will probably defend the rook instead of going backwards. Something like queen d3 or queen d2 seems.
Which makes sense because in a nearest future, white could put even more pressure on d6.
Yeah, knight b5 being a
Yeah,
potential
well, of
idea.
course, black can always play a6, but anyway.
Yes. So after queen e5, I think it's a good time to stop. Rook d3, and black is slightly worse with some chances. Actually, he can maybe even exchange the queens if he wants to. So that is interesting. Let's move on to.
Yeah, let's move on to the games. Those games that we haven't yet covered.
Yes. So the game between Vidit and Maksudlu.
Yes.
Yes. So we saw this position last time we spoke. The queen
Yeah.
a4 check in the Grunfeld, and then bishop b5, c6, bishop d3. Castles.
Okay, could you explain me, please? I didn't get that bishop b5.
C6 idea?
Yeah, like for me, c6 is a natural move, controlling the center, at least d5
So
square.
every Grunfeld player knows that the pawn wants to be on c5 in
Okay,
the game.
even me, without playing Grunfeld, I know that, but still.
So because of this fact, the fact that the pawn moved to c6 doesn't change much in the evaluation because it will move to c5 later on.
Okay.
And the tempo lost by bishop b5 is in fact a time gain because he didn't spend time moving his queen away from a4. So
Okay, now it, yeah.
so
now it's
castles,
better.
knight f3, and now after c5, queen takes d7. There are some differences. So allow me to show an example. In the opening, had white took taken immediately, and let's say in this position, without c6, c5, and the other moves added, now black can take back with the knight and maybe play b6, bishop b7
Yes.
before committing to c5. But in the case of the game, which was this position we just saw. If you take with the knight, after, let's say, a natural move, let's just give an example of bishop d2, I don't know, something like that. White has the positional threat of eventually getting d5, maybe c4 later, and having a strong center because c5 has been played already.
Yes.
Just a random difference. Maybe bishop b2 and long castle even followed by d5. So just an idea to keep in mind. Now after bishop d7, this is already not the ideal placement of the pieces for black. Rook b1, b6, and the bishop clearly wants to stand off b7, and it will spend some time rerouting there soon. Bishop e3, cd, cd, knight c6, castles, rook fd8, and after d5 we can conclude that white has achieved something with his, let's call it nuance of bishop b5 and back to d3 in the opening.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's much, but we definitely can tell that he achieved some compromise by black. The fact that the bishop is on d7 is not ideal in this structure. Knight a5, rook bc1, e6, bishop g5, f6, bishop back to d2, knight b7, and now after rook c7 and knight c5, bishop c4, we can conclude from the opening that white is probably pushing for a small advantage.
Okay.
That's at least what I feel here.
If he doesn't lose his rook on c7.
If he doesn't lose the rook, which he has not. He exchanged it.
Nice.
And bishop e3, king f7. So far all the moves are natural. The king comes to the center in the endgame. Rook c1, bishop f8. And once again, Maksudlu plays king f7 on time and bishop f8 and consolidates his position. e5.
No?
I invented a word, I told you. I like this kind of stuff. e5, bishop g7. You'll hear many more new words by me in the coming future. E takes f6, bishop takes f6, d takes e6, bishop takes e6 with some liquidation, bishop takes, king takes. I don't think that there's any chance that white is much better. Maybe he has some ideas, but you will have to prove, and judging by the moves that took place, it doesn't seem like he's willing to prove an advantage. And both of the leaders, or let's say the players in the third place.
Yeah, sharing third place.
Yes, by a draw they will keep their chances to win the tournament quite decent, being only one win away, one classical win away from the leader of the tournament so far.
Yes.
So this game is slowly, let's say, moving towards a draw. It won't be too much to say.
Which means that we can switch on to another game, which we haven't yet covered, which is
Bogner versus Abdusatorov.
Board number 2, yes.
Yes. So here, in this game, we have a fascinating position. Dina, how would you evaluate this position?
Well, it must be winning for black. No? It's... you have two pieces against the rook. This is kind of enough, no?
With equal material.
Yeah, but okay, maybe I exaggerated a little, but still, it's in a black.
Sorry, equal pawns. I meant. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, but still, two pieces makes 6, if I count right. And,
well, according to some methods, piece is 3.5 rather than 3. So who
which
knows?
makes 7.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, so what's the...
So your evaluation seems okay to me.
Okay,
yeah.
just okay?
I was just playing with you. Yeah.
Okay.
I like the evaluation. And it's very important that you evaluate by yourself regardless to my agreement, because I am not a good source, not a reliable source for confirmation. So bishop g2.
And by the way, you say like equal number of pawns, but how are you planning to defend the h3 pawn?
Maybe it's impossible.
Maybe it is.
So I don't know how to defend the pawn or the position, and they have some developments. Rook a7 check, king e6, rook a6, bishop takes h3.
Well, wait a second, sorry. b5, no?
By black?
Yes.
I assume,
Oh no.
I assume after b5, white was planning something like king d4, threatening king c5 with counterplay.
Right.
So
Yeah, I get.
yeah, so instead, uh, bishop takes h3 was played, king f3 defending the g4 pawn, and maybe now b5. And actually, what? After king f3, knight c4. Okay, also good enough.
Yeah.
f5, king d5, king f4, bishop g2. It's not so difficult to conclude that after rook a7, knight d6,
Oh,
black
come on,
is
it's winning.
two
yeah.
pieces and a passed pawn ahead, and h3 is coming very soon, followed by maybe knight e4 check, and the king is very active. Safe to say that black is going to win. Your
Right.
favorite result so far.
Yes.
And moving on, let's have a look at board number 4 again between Georgiadis and Corey. Oh,
By the
they
way-
arranged the pieces. So board number 2. So Abdusatorov has
Yeah.
won, like we correctly evaluated. So last time we were here, we saw rook d3, and black played rook ac8. Now rook queen f2.
And we assume that that was a slight advantage for white.
Yeah, g takes f5, e takes f5, knight g7, f takes e6, f takes e6, and now in this position Georgiades is thinking, and he seems very concentrated. From his body language I can almost guess that he's in time pressure. Let's have a look.
I think I've heard him being in that time pressure kind of often.
Yeah, 17 seconds against 9, so they're both in time pressure. We are way behind in the position. Soon we will have like 15 moves in a row when we get them.
Your favorite part, agree.
Yeah. So, oh, we have a. So let's go over them slowly, even though the players are playing very quickly. Rook e1, queen c5, queen takes c5, d takes c5 because d6 was
Yeah,
hanging.
was hanging.
And knight e4, white is better here in this endgame. c4, rook f3, rook d8, c3, b5, a3, a5, king c2, activating the king in the endgame, very important. King h8.
King h8, very important.
Yes.
Deactivating.
Passivating the king.
Passivating the king in the endgame.
Yes, very safe. So after king h8, knight f6, rook c5, rook d1, takes, and knight f5. And now black is seeking counterplay against the h4 pawn, and we can predict that white will defend.
Oh.
And he attacked the other pawn. So he took h5, knight takes h4, and rook h3, knight back to f5. White is winning a pawn by means of knight f4, knight takes e6, rook d5 check, and now white cannot go to the e file because of rook e5 check. So he went to c1, which is slightly passive, and now black's task is to fight against the pawn on g5. Maybe knight g7, trying to force the exchange of knights and maybe achieving a draw very soon. So let's see. He's thinking. So soon we'll have another transmission of like 10 moves in a row. So what do you think about black's winning chances thus far?
Black's winning chances?
Drawing
and-
chances.
Well, I think it all depends on the
yeah.
kings.
Such a time.
Like if black's king happened to come on g6, then it should be fine.
Yeah. So
Otherwise, kind of difficult to defend.
rook e5 was played, knight f4, knight e3, g6, a4, which seems interesting to fix the pawns on the queen side to avoid any a4 breaks by white. King d2, knight f1 check, king d1. Black seems to have drawing chances already. Knight e3 might be a draw agreement, and black might be the one playing for a win with rook e4, knight h5, rook e6, rook f3, knight e3 check, king d2, knight d5, and g7. And I don't think black has too many winning chances.
Oh, they have just finished.
They have finished after g7. Let's see. Knight e7, rook f8 check, rook h8 check, and g8 queen followed by knight f4 check.
Which means exchanging, yeah. nothing.
I believe Corey may have lost the game
Yeah, he has lost.
after knight takes g8 and knight f4 check. Allow us to demonstrate if king g7.
Perhaps rook takes g8 check.
Intermediate move.
Yes, very important.
And king takes g8, knight takes c6.
And
And
we are
white is a piece up in
one
a pawn
piece
end
up.
game, so this is good enough.
Should be
And,
easy.
Yeah. And here, after knight f4 check, black resigned, which is unfortunate because it seemed to be very close to a draw earlier. And they were very ambitious to play for a win. And yeah, this is, we have only one more game going on, right? As we are following board one. So
Yes.
let's have a look at the position. Seems close to a draw.
Wait a second, shouldn't we just start by the moment where we left those guys behind?
Well, I believe they're in time pressure, so we will get back to it very soon.
Okay.
So after bishop d8, king f5. How would you evaluate this position?
Well. Evaluate is not that difficult. I see one pawn up, so black
Oh.
is one pawn up.
Good job.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
But
Black is also a knight up.
yes, and
Just
white
kidding.
is bishop up. But
Yes.
okay, that's true. But
No, but can black
seriously,
in this kind of endgames, when I speak about evaluation, I forgot to mention the main question is whether the result is a win or a draw.
yes,
So you can gamble if you wish. Just guess.
yeah. I should. Who's playing black?
Whatever you guess, I will guess the other option.
Parham's playing black. Okay, but no, I would still try to. My prediction would be black wins.
Yeah?
Yes.
I guess black draws and white wins. I hope white can. In bullet, maybe white can flag black, but here, the only way to win the game is to somehow win the bishop, because if you exchange the g pawn for the h
yeah.
pawn,
No sense.
there is no chance to win because the bishop will sacrifice itself for the remaining pawn. And because the pawns are on dark squares, then the bishop can easily attack them. So the knight on c6 currently limits the bishop, but not for very long, because once it moves, bishop d8 will be played. And it's really hard to imagine how black will make progress in this situation. But yeah, so let's look at the continuation. Bishop b6, king d3, king f3, king d3, king g2, and now
Okay, basically
we can expect
nothing changes.
we can expect a fortress
Yes.
very soon. And here we are quite sure of the upcoming result. So
So let's just.
let's have a quick look at the standings while they are thinking.
Maybe okay.
Just in case of a draw, to understand what's going on. So Maksudlu, together with Vidit, will share the third spot in the event, and Petr Leko at the top. And the second place, Sam Shankland, with 9 points out of 14. Fifth place will probably belong to Corey with 7 points, and we have a surprise on the 6th place of the tournament, Nico, with his second win in a row, who has managed to exploit the advantage against the dragon.
Yeah.
And
Dragon.
which is interesting because I believe sometimes he played the dragon himself as black. So yeah, it's always interesting to play against your own opening. So let's get back to board number 1.
Yes, and just see all those moves that we missed.
They went back and forth with the knight and bishop. So for now, we have more or less the same thing. The king is on g2, the black king is on e3, the knight jumps around, the bishop keeps an eye on the pawns. So sooner or later we will have an outcome, I believe.
I think Vidit is asking for a
move
50
repetition.
moves
Or maybe a move
or,
repetition.
yeah, or just counting.
So maybe we can teach a little bit about the chess rules now, about how to claim a draw if anyone is playing a tournament.
Please be so kind just to show me the previous moves from the
From the game?
From the game, yeah, that we missed. Like I believe it was like that poem.
After they exchanged
Yeah.
rooks. So wait, here. So last time we stopped it was this position.
Okay.
So king d3, king d5, knight g5, bishop takes g5, bishop takes g5, b5, king c3, knight e6, bishop e3, a5, and it seems like both players can't really make too much progress. It's quite interesting how black managed to win a pawn in this position. But it's important to note that the pawn endgame is probably not so good for white because black has an outside passed pawn,
Okay.
which might result in a black win. But after f3, knight d7, bishop g5, knight e5, probably black is going to try to reroute the knight, and b4 is a nice tactic. Takes, takes. The pawn is untouchable because of the fork, b-fork, by black, king b3, knight d3, bishop d2, king c5, g4, knight e5, and I assume g4, white intentionally allowed black to win the pawn on f3 in order to get rid of the pawn on b4, and now the resulting endgame, even though he's losing a pawn, is considered to be an easy draw, as far as I can tell, because you can always sacrifice the bishop for the last remaining pawn. And yeah, so now we saw the game between Vidit and Maksudlu. We can have a look at what we missed until we have one of the players who might want to join us soon before we conclude the long day that we started very late. So,
The first day of 52nd Biel Chess Festival 2019.
Indeed. So let's have a quick look. The game between Bogner and Abdusatorov, I think we didn't look at it at all. We didn't have time for it. We missed it entirely. So maybe we can have a quick glance at what happened in that game. So, Nico is here with us.
Nico is willing to share us his thoughts.
Yes.
How nice
so
of him.
we'll show you the standings for a quick moment until we arrange the problems with the microphone.
Yeah, what about the microphone? I'm not sure if it was working the last time.
Have a look
we
at the
tried
standings very quickly, and we'll get back to you shortly with Nico.
Yeah. Perfect. Hello. The last two games I came back somehow.
All right, so we are back with none other than Nico Georgiadis, who's recovered with 2 wins in the last couple of rounds after not such an easy start. Nico, will you tell us first how it feels to recover like this?
Well, it feels quite good actually. Actually, it's better to finish the tournament like that. I mean, it's better to win late than win early because if you lose late, then you will end the tournament with a bad feeling. So
Yeah,
this is much better the other way around.
yes, we will enjoy the dinner
Exactly.
much more now. So maybe...
Yeah, maybe you could show us those wins, especially, I think we could start by the dragon.
Oh.
Yeah, so
So
tell
the
us...
seventh-
I think that game was much worse than the other one, but okay.
Yes, so start with the 7th round win on board number 4. So you played with white, and
Yeah,
maybe...
he played the dragon as a complete surprise. I think he
Yes.
usually doesn't go for the dragon.
So first he played the
Um,
anti-Sveshnikov against you.
Yeah, but usually he goes e6, so time
You
on
play the
off. Yeah.
anti-Sveshnikov, and then he usually goes e6. And now he played g6
dragon,
instead
yeah.
of e6. And as commentators, we expected him to play knight f6 here with the accelerated dragon.
Yes.
But he went for this new idea with d6 and bishop d7, which seems very curious. Like at this point, what were you thinking?
I think it's just a bad idea because it will most likely transpose to a dragon line where black can just castle queenside without playing bishop c4
Yes.
because
and
black has no more d5. That's
Yes.
I think this bishop d7 is just a bad move, but I think he was just not ready for this line and he felt very tired. That's what he told me after the game.
uh-huh.
So
He wanted to
that's-
avoid theory.
yeah, I think so.
Okay. Castles, knight f6,
Yeah.
f3. Castles, and now we have more or less the main line of this sideline in the dragon with bishop d7, which is theoretically considered to be better for white. g4, queen a5, king b1, very typical move. Rook fc8, h4. Up until here, I assume most of your moves were, if not all, were automatic.
Yeah, quite quickly I played.
And
yeah.
this is the first position where I guess you have to decide on your plan.
You started really thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I think h5 is the only move. Otherwise,
Yes.
it's just going to be mated. So usually white goes g5 here after h5. Yeah, I know it because I play dragon with black and white. So
Yeah,
whenever black goes h5, I think g5 is the right answer.
f4.
And,
And after bishop
I think
g4,
white is much better here, even though in a practical game it might be not so easy because I mean black somehow defends everything, but you need to attack with f4, f5.
yeah, so you have like a classical advantage rather than an attack.
Yes.
Like space, as Dina mentioned, and also some, let's say, one weakness on d6, as we've seen in the game. So bishop e2, bishop takes e2, queen e2, and black played e6. Did you expect this move?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
I was mostly calculating some stuff like knight takes d4 and e5 and so on, but I think it's pretty bad. So e6 was a surprise to me. Okay, rook h1 was good. I think he played rook c7, which is another surprise. It looks very
Yeah.
weird because yeah, I mean the rooks. Here I was thinking about knight b3, queen a6 takes, which is probably also
Better?
quite
Quite pleasant, yeah.
quite pleasant for white. But okay, I wanted to play the middle game because
Yeah, f5 is nice.
okay, now he took and played queen e5. Yeah, and somehow I'm sure the engine is giving huge advantage for white here, but I think in
Nobody
practical game-
knows.
yeah, in the practical game it's not so easy
Yes.
because his queen on e5 is
Our station is engine
not-
free.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
So
I don't
unfortunately,
want to check it with the engine.
No,
anyway. The
unfortunately-
game is too bad.
unfortunately for us, we were left with our brains to evaluate the position, and we know the word space.
Yes.
And yeah,
You
So-
thought that white was still better, yeah?
yes. So rook d3, rook ac8.
Yeah,
We
queen
thought
f2,
white
I
was
think
better.
until here everything was fine more or less.
Yes, and
And now
now
he took a knight g7, which was unbelievable. Just very surprising, but somehow it seems to work.
yeah, now f takes e6, f takes e6.
Yeah, I think that was what I played was good. Because
Rook
now he has
e1.
to go queen. Well, he doesn't have to go queen c5, but otherwise I just take on these.
Yes, he has too many weaknesses in the center, and after queen c5, d takes c5 is a very unfortunate.
I think this position should just be completely winning for white. But
Yes.
Yeah, and then somehow, yeah, something started getting wrong.
exactly. Maybe
Knight
I should have played knight b5, knight takes a7. Now when I see the position, I didn't even see it.
Yes.
Just collecting a pawn for free.
Oh
I
man.
mean, that was one option.
Collecting a pawn for free. Yes. Keep it in mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Okay.
It looks
Yeah, knight
really,
d5 looks really good.
really easy. Yeah. Winning the game with ease. So after 94, c4, rook f3,
Okay,
rook
now
d8.
somehow it's not so easy anymore. Maybe I should play b3. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to put my queenside pawns.
Yeah.
Even
It's
b4 maybe.
b4 looks nice, but yeah, every move has its own flaws. And now after you played c3,
My king is weak after
b5, yeah, a3,
Okay, this
a5.
was complete time trouble now. It's just
Yeah. Right now, yeah,
Yeah.
and unfortunately we couldn't follow the game like
Here we actually
was-
appreciated a lot your that feeling of activating your king like in the end game and
yes,
yeah, I just played normal moves. I mean, I
Yeah.
couldn't calculate anything. That's why I just.
yes, you used your intuition to bring your pieces.
Okay, but I think now he's almost okay after
Yes,
what happened.
after rook c5 and this knight f5
Okay.
and
yeah, now I
rook
think
h. So
It
now
looks more
black.
complicated
Now, yeah, I
to
think
win.
now it's still a bit tricky. Knight takes e6. Maybe he could give. He could go rook e5 immediately.
Hmm. And if knight f4, then the same knight e3, the famous knight e3
Yeah,
check,
knight e3 check.
and king
Yeah,
c1.
I have to go king c1. Actually, also in the game I play king d2. He could just give check.
Yeah, and
check
ca-
again. I
check
have
and
to go
back. Everyone knows check and back is
Yeah.
always nice.
That
So king c1 and now maybe
Yeah,
knight
now-
moves somewhere with attack on g5.
g6, so I would have played probably. Okay, of course, white is still playing.
Maybe
free.
knight d5
Probably
even.
white is much better.
Yeah, knight d5.
Oh, did I?
Take rook g3. I'm not sure how white can make progress.
Yeah, knight d5 is quite good.
Something like this and a4. It's not so clear if white can do anything. Might be a fortress. So and in fact also in the game after rook d5 check here knight g7 seems pretty solid.
I didn't see the move.
Yeah, we evaluated it as
Equal.
close to equality.
Yes.
Maybe I can play some a4. I mean, knight takes and a4. No, sorry,
Ah,
with white.
yes, knight takes and a4. B4 example,
And rook h4.
rook h4, rook
My
c5.
king is coming. I don't know.
I mean king
It should,
d6.
should be a draw.
It's very close, very
King
close.
d2,
Yeah, now say king g6
rook d4,
and
king f5 maybe.
um, king f5 looks good. Yeah,
Rook g2 back.
and threatening
Yeah.
to capture on
Now
g
king e3.
king e3. Yeah.
Now you have this.
Yeah. I mean, black has good drawing
Rook
chances
d2. I
after.
think. I mean, rook d2 at the end.
Yes.
Still
Um,
no draw maybe.
not a forced draw, but I mean, black has its chances
Yeah.
after
Yeah,
exchange of knights. It's clear that this pawn has to be taken care of. And after king c1, rook e5, knight f4. Was he playing for a win with knight e3?
No.
G6, a4. Yeah,
Yeah,
here.
King d2 was ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, knight f1 check and rook e4. If he went back, there's
c1 I would have played. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, still he cannot do much. I think. No, I would take him.
Oh, yeah. So probably knight f1 back or something, or knight d5 trying to survive somehow.
Yeah, knight h5.
And
Okay, I think
It's-
here it's already a bit tricky for him. I mean, at least in time trouble.
yeah, but
Fine, 'cause- okay.
Yeah.
Objectively, it's still a draw, but.
yeah, but it's not so easy to exchange the
I
knights.
felt that now I have serious winning chances.
Probably knight d5 when the pawn was on g5 was
Mhm.
another chance he had at some point earlier. Anyway, he played this, king d2, he didn't repeat the position, rook e4, knight h5, and here it's already very close to
I think
losing.
it's over, yeah, because
Yeah.
rook f3 is coming.
Yes,
Okay, he should give check at least. No, but king a2, I think.
e2.
King e2 is coming.
And
But he didn't repeat the position because he
he missed it probably.
No, probably he thought I would play king e2, but he missed some knight d5, rook f5. I don't know what. he missed.
Okay, so he was still playing for a draw, even though he
He could have repeated the
No,
No, he
position.
couldn't have repeated it because there's king e2.
I
King
mean,
c1.
earlier. Earlier after knight f1. No? Like here, knight e3.
King d2. I mean, there was no repetition.
Ah.
The one I could go king e2.
Ah, this is
Knight
probably.
d5, king f3,
And king
rook
e4.
f5. And king, yeah, maybe that's what he thought. Yeah.
Hmm.
Winning.
Yeah, yeah. It's very weird how things, how this our variations develop here.
This could be a try for white also.
Yeah, so
serious
so
try.
maybe he saw everything and just decided not to
Maybe
allow
see
it.
yeah.
So in the game after knight h5, it was more or less over,
Yeah,
at least how
and
it
I
felt.
spotted this trick with g8 queen and
Yeah, and
it's
very
over.
very nice trick with g8 and knight f4. Zwischenzug.
Exactly.
Yeah, and now would you mind if we go quickly over the other win?
Mm,
Not at all.
Not at all.
So what round was it? 5, 6, probably.
6, yeah. Last two.
So round number 6. And
Okay, I think the key was I played faster in the last two games. This was the key, and also the other players were probably a bit tired. And,
yes. So first we saw the opening. You played black against Maksudlu. You played e6, calm down, against your very creative
yeah,
opponent.
against Maksulu, you just need to have a safe king. I think that's the most important.
Well, that's a good advice. That's a good advice. I hope the other players are watching the stream. So e4, was this move?
No, actually, I didn't prepare it. I mean, I looked at this line, but not with the b3 and so on.
We had a difficulty explaining e4, even though it seems legitimate.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
think e4 is okay. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as you don't play e5,
Yeah.
everything is good for white.
So
Now I was
Knight b8
having
typical.
difficulties to find a plan, so I just repeated.
yes.
I was
And
sure he was not going to repeat anyway.
yes. And now after knight takes e5, bishop takes
So
e5,
here I thought for a long time
and you played.
about bishop f6. I thought.
Ah.
I mean, in theory, it's great for black to exchange those bishops, but
Yes.
the king
He's
king
slightly.
is quite weak now. So I thought queen e2,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure. Maybe it's playable for black, but
But the price of a mistake here is much higher than
Exactly.
in a case where your king is safe,
that's why I
especially
played
against
rook d7.
your like very great attacking opponent. Queen e2, rook cd8, bishop b2, bishop f8, queen e3, and now you made this decision to go b4.
Yeah, I wanted to go b4 anyway, so
And if a4, what's the
a5 and bishop a6 was the
Yes.
idea.
so
I
your
think it's just equal.
yeah your opponent took on b4, queen takes b4, and do you evaluate this as better for black?
No.
No.
that's what we did. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
No.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, we thought
No, he
black
was
has
actually playing for the win somehow. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought I was completely fine, but okay, he found some resources to play on.
so which position was the critical?
I think okay, bishop a6, bishop e2. I played rook b8, bishop e5. Now after bishop d6, I thought, I mean, I'm at least,
Equal.
well, maybe I thought I'm even a bit better now, but he found bishop b2 back,
Yes.
which I didn't realize was possible because of queen b3, bishop takes g7, queen b1, queen takes h6, and white.
Sorry, let's say it again. Queen b3 here, yeah.
Yeah, bishop
Queen.
g7, queen b1, queen h6, and white.
Ignoring you, wow. And checkmate to follow.
This is a very nice resource.
Yes.
Indeed.
But you didn't fall for it. You went back to
Well.
f8 like a boss. And
Offering the repetition of moves, but of course
Yes.
it didn't.
yes.
Hoping
Rook
the other
d6.
one would.
Praying.
Yeah.
Rook dc1, rook b d8, bishop c3, queen b6, rook
Yeah,
d1,
Okay, it's
rook b8, lovely.
yeah, threatening a4.
Queen
This is always
c1,
important.
queen d8, and now this is when things start going your way.
Yeah.
Queen d2,
Okay, I think a4. This was a good move.
yes, probably
Anyway,
queen
it's the
d2
only
was a mistake. Maybe queen e3 was slightly better to defend things without getting into unnecessary pins.
But anyway, I can play a4. Yeah.
Yeah,
And there is no bishop a5 now, so I will just
Ah.
take and take on d3.
I guess you're right. So after queen d2, a4, and here Dina's
Well.
prophecy started to becoming true.
Yes.
Yes, and it fulfilled itself. Bishop a5.
So you thought here I was better, yeah? Or
Well,
I
actually.
agreed with their evaluation.
Yeah, I thought when it was some moments before when it was more static, like with
Mhm.
those a5,
Yes.
c5 pawns.
B takes a4, rook
Okay, I
b1,
think
rook
I'm
b1.
not better also here.
Yes, and now,
Because he has good counterplay.
yes. Now after bishop takes d3,
Yeah, he found this queen f4 move, which I didn't see at all.
bishop takes d3. We didn't actually see these moves after bishop takes d3. because we were following the fascinating move repetition between Vidit and was it who was it? Bogner? Don't remember.
Yeah, no.
Fascinating
No, no,
move
no.
repetition.
Between Vidit and Maksudlu
No,
on
no.
the last
I
round.
was playing Max
No?
Zuckerberg.
Round 7. Everything is
Round
mixed. No,
Round 6.
no, it's round 7. Like, okay, anyway.
Yes.
I don't remember anything
We were
about the
following
pairings.
another game.
Yeah, we were following another game. That's
We were too
that's all we
busy.
wanted to say.
We were very busy.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are like,
We did not have enough
Everything
time.
goes so fast. Yeah,
Yes. Very busy day at the office. So
C-
bishop takes d3,
yeah, we
c4,
found Queen f4, which was
queen f4.
okay. After Queen f4, I could, I think, take Rook takes d3.
Rook takes d3, but he
Rook
even
b8,
rook
Queen
b8.
takes. There, I thought bishop b4, Queen takes b4. Maybe there's something else. Yeah,
About
some
this.
Rook f8 stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and no, doesn't work.
Queen
Wait,
takes
this,
7
this.
check, King f6.
Queen a7, maybe, and winning the queen somehow.
Rook
King
d7. Rook,
King e8, and at
rook
least the draw.
d7. No.
Also
Queen
rook-
a8.
also rook d7.
No. No.
Queen a8, what do you do?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
This is the only move, because
but
bishop
before there
d8
was
and then
oh no, there was no rook d7.
something like this. Very forced line.
Okay.
Yeah, it's maybe some
No,
chances
I,
to
I
win.
didn't want to go for this. I just saw e5 was
Yeah, rook
okay.
d3 is very dangerous. You might be losing somehow, and at least a draw for
Exactly.
white.
I also thought about c takes d3, which looks very natural.
And then rook b8.
Rook b8, Queen e7, bishop b4 takes. I think this position should be good for black. So, okay, but I thought he was going to play something else here.
Maybe e5 followed by bishop
Somehow I
b4.
cannot move.
Yeah.
In this position.
This might be losing
Well, I don't know. King h7.
here.
Okay, but I can just take and d2.
Pity. How about giving a check?
g6.
It's very unclear, but
Very unclear position, but
looks like white should be okay somehow, even if he plays bishop d2 in any position.
exactly.
Like you don't have a clear,
I can't move.
Move,
And
yeah.
he will just play a5 and so on. So
in case anyone is wondering. So then e5 was played, which is a nice intermezzo.
yeah, now the position. now
Yeah.
the position was very unclear.
C takes d3.
Bishop d2, Queen a8 looked good.
Yes.
Okay, a5, and now I didn't dare to take on e4 because of Queen c8, and it's bad. So I play King h7.
King h7, and now queen c4.
Now Queen a7 was a good move, I think.
Yes. Rook b6. Rook c7,
Yeah, I gave the d3. Okay, I think he should take now and
and try to
bishop
win.
c5, Queen b3. I thought during the game, but maybe there's Rook d7.
Very interesting.
Queen
If-
b5 maybe. Maybe that's better.
what do you want after queen b3? Rook where? d7.
d7,
Ah,
yeah.
so here
Here
There's-
we go, Rook d7.
here is very difficult to make a move.
Well, Rook
Rook
d8, Rook
c8.
c8, Rook
Rook-
b7. Yeah, it's coming.
Bishop f2, and then queen.
Hmm.
It's not clear at all.
Yeah, I think this was better for white. This moment he... No, Rook b7 I think should be the move. But then I take and maybe Queen d4, yeah?
Take where?
On f2.
Here, 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 here.
Queen d4.
And then
Who knows
probably
what will happen.
nobody knows.
Also in the game I didn't know what will happen.
So you
Okay.
played for a win with rook c6.
Yes.
Rook takes c6.
Yeah, bishop c5,
Queen
and now of
c6.
course, how he mentioned after the game, he should go bishop e1.
Bishop e1.
I think it's the only move. And
Yes.
now d2 takes, bishop takes, and if king g2, if I play bishop g1 now, I think bishop e1 again. And if queen e3 is bad, I think, because of queen c3. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think black should be fine because of white's weak king. So we just exchange
Mm-hmm.
and d and f pawn. Okay, like this it was.
Where's the exchange?
No, no, no.
Ah.
No.
Sorry, you mean after?
I mean, if bishop e1, d2 takes again.
Ah.
Bishop
Takes,
f2.
takes.
And now if I place no, not bishop g1, but another move. Just some move.
Try.
Well, maybe even
Nah.
even that could.
No, no.
But just bishop d4 or something. I think black should No
should
words
hold
here,
because of the
yeah.
a7 square being under control.
Yeah, and also
The white king.
is pretty weak.
Yeah. So this should be an easy draw.
I think so.
At least easy to achieve
Yeah, I think
counterplay.
he just, I don't know what he missed here. He very probably, I mean, we were down on 5 or 10 seconds, so he just missed that he has bishop e1.
So after bishop c5, king g2, bishop
Yeah,
f2,
Queen d5.
and he missed
king
bishop
d1.
g1. And now white is lost.
I think queen e5 is the only move he could try.
Queen f2.
Check. So g6 I wanted to play. Queen bishop, but bishop c3. Okay.
Wait, what if I give a check?
Yeah, king g4.
And queen e2
King back.
and
h5.
something like that.
Bishop c3.
I think I'm mating you first.
Maybe. Ah, bishop e3.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks winning for black. I just didn't see it in the game.
I didn't calculate, to be fair. I just, you know,
Yeah, played.
just checked by hand. So queen takes e5, queen f2, king h3, queen f1, king g4, and queen e2 followed by g6 is the very
So
least.
g6 and
Yeah, g6 immediately followed by the same threats
yeah, I think this is winning.
or like this. So yeah, completely winning. King h3, queen f2, h5, queen takes d2, and after the following sequence, you prevented perpetual by the exchange of queens.
Exactly.
Maestro. So very nice recovery. Dina, do you have a question?
How do you feel?
I feel great, yeah. I'm very happy with the result, obviously. I didn't expect to make 6 points.
Yes, and
So, yeah, now the classical part is starting and I think I'm in good shape, so I'm just
Yeah.
very glad to play against these guys again.
would you say that your general performance is normally affected by your mood as a human, as a chess player? Like when you have a good mood?
Well, usually I'm always in a good mood, so...
Yeah? Okay, that's good. And so
Only-
do you...
Only if I lose too many games, then I will not be in a good mood anymore. But usually, before I come to the game,
And does this help, or like, do you
I
think
think
it's a
so,
good advice
yeah.
for players to try to be in a good mood and just
well,
generally?
I'm just a positive nature. I think that's.
Okay.
I mean,
And like, how do you
it
do?
helps.
But in this tournament, you started off like slightly below, let's say, at least my hopes, and for you. And I would say that not any player has the ability to beat two higher-rated players
In a row?
in a row after having lost a few games without much time to recover. Like you don't have time to even, I don't know, rest for a few minutes. So how would what advice would you give to chess players watching us who might find themselves in the same situation, like some losses without a chance to or time to recover?
Well, you just need this ability to keep being focused and just to. When I played against Maksudlu, I knew I could beat him, and I just because in the previous games I had my chances. I always have my chances in every game, so I just decided to play quicker, and and I wanted to win one game also. So yeah, I just kept believing in that, and somehow it worked.
So would it be fair to summarize it? Have faith in yourself, confidence, even if you don't feel like you should. Just be confident and play quicker.
And
Yeah,
play
play
quicker.
quicker, play
Yeah,
quicker. This is-
exactly.
Play quicker and at the right moment repeat moves like a boss. Yeah.
Yeah,
for
just,
now, I mean, I didn't mind making a draw, of course. I was
Yes.
happy with the draw too, but I knew
Yes.
he was not going to repeat it.
That's a good psychological advantage to have. I like being in the underdog. So
Me
in
too.
general, yes.
Yeah.
So that's a fairly good advice for everyone, even the strong players out there. And I think we can all learn from it, because even though it's easy to understand and say, to apply these words of wisdom is never easy when we are in pain. So yeah,
Or in
congrats
action,
for setting an example for all of us, and hopefully we will be inspired by this recovery. So yeah, so
Congratulations.
yes, and good luck in the coming classical event.
Yeah, and thank you so much for
Yes,
joining us here.
Nico Georgiadis, everyone, grandmaster, and yeah, one of the best players in Switzerland. So let's have a quick look at the standings, and as we conclude the tournament. And just mention that these are the standings of the classical that are very, very nice looking. Everyone has no points, but for the overall outcome of the tournament, we have Petr Leko in the lead and Sam Shankland in clear second place. Our surprising player, as I mentioned, now Nico Georgiadis with 6 points in the 6th place. And we have Parham Maksudlu and Santosh Vidit sharing the 3rd place. And Corey, despite a slightly disappointing finish, he started off very strongly and still has his chances. Only 1 win behind the 1st place. So, Dina, how would you summarize the situation so far?
So I think we have seen a lot of results actually in the games. I mean, in terms of avoiding draws. So there were not so many draws, which is nice. And summarizing it all, we can say that what can we say?
I would say that the first thing that needs to be mentioned is that we want to apologize for the technical issues in the first 4 rounds. We really enjoyed watching them and attempting to stream them, but we couldn't make the computer, let's say, stream.
Up to date.
And we ended up bringing a new hardware and setting up everything from start. And it took us like the first round to realize that we're not going to succeed, and another like 2-3 rounds to set everything up from scratch. And we apologize for that. In the coming rounds, we'll make sure that it will not happen again. And
Yes.
also, we can talk quickly about the pairings for tomorrow, the classical chess.
True.
We have Petr Leko, the current leader of the overall triathlon, with white against Sebastian Bogner.
Yes.
We have on the second board Nico Georgiadis
Against Sam Shankland.
On the third board, we have Vidit against Corey.
And on the 4th board, we have Nodirbek against Parham.
Maksudlu, yes. And we are expecting a lot of fighting chess, especially now that we've seen that all our field is very motivated to play for a win. Even those who play for macroscopic advantage try their best to exploit it later on in the pace of evolution, I would say.
Exactly.
And yeah, all I can say now is that we're looking forward to a very exciting event. Tomorrow's game starts at 2 p.m. Switzerland time, which, if I'm not wrong, means GMT +1. And for those who are not sure, I will just recommend to Google very quickly time in Switzerland and compare it to your own time. So 2 p.m. is when we start with the broadcast. And we will be here 5 minutes before to properly present the players like we wanted to do today.
Definitely better when we do it today. So we will be very happy to meet you again tomorrow for the round, for the first round of our GMT.
Yes. And we are very thrilled to interact with the chat like we wanted to today, but we still had a lot of new things to learn. So little by little, we will master the art of doing chess commentary. So we want to thank everyone for watching, and hope you enjoyed what part of the stream we did manage to show you. I know I enjoyed. So this is GM Tal Baron together with woman Grandmaster Dina Belinkaya here.
Who also enjoyed that very first day at the 52nd Biel Chess Festival
2019. Thank you.